Hello, hello, hello. So, first off, there probably will be technical issues. Bear with us. This is the first time we're doing a live stream with a guest. But anyways, welcome. How's everyone doing tonight? It is Saturday night. I feel all right. We're not going to be printing anything. We're not going to be building anything tonight. Tonight, we are actually going to have a guest on the stream. For those of you who are on the Voron Discord or the subreddit, you might know the man Russiancatfood, Maks Zolin. He is the founder, creator, head honcho dude of Voron Design. And he's going to be on the stream tonight. So the plan is we're going to have a little chat, talk about the history of Voron, a little bit of behind the scenes talk about some of the development history of the project and whatnot. Things that were way back in the day before, before even Slack. So tonight should be a fun stream. Hopefully you're all hearing me, the little needles moving on my monitor, so we should be okay there on my end. Probably all going to go to crap once I bring them into the stream, but since when do we not have issues? So tonight's stream should be a good one. I want to give a shout out to Thangs for sponsoring the stream tonight. If you're looking for anything to print, make sure you go to thangs.com, share your Thangs, download some Thangs, create an account. They're a great site. They're growing. You can find all kinds of models. And this is the one that I'm printing this week. For those that were unaware, recently put the BIQ H2 on the Ender 3. And when you want to torture test something, what do? Well, the Benchy, it's old at this point. So they have this nice little model on there. And it's called a torch toaster. Okay. This right here will probably eat your printer alive if it's not properly tuned. I've been dealing with this guy about 2 days now. Now, not a complete loss. I got a little bitty mini one here. Okay. Some parts of it work. The little lock works. The gear lock works. The toast kind of pops out of the toaster. But, this is the mini one. Full size has not been so well. So I want you guys to download that model from Thangs, create an account, see if you can print it, see how well your printer is tuned. If you could fully print this thing all the way down to all the fitment, your printer is tuned. That one is not, but we'll get there. So that's enough of the intro. How's everyone doing tonight? I know chat is probably going to be insane. I'm going to try and keep up with chat. It's probably going to be it's going to be quick and fast tonight. I missed one already. Francisco, $10. Thank you. Appreciate it. And who became a member? Someone became a member. Scrolled all the way up. Thank you for becoming a member. So on the docket, we have Mr. Russiancatfood. I'm going to bring him in right now. I don't have a hotkey for this, so I'm going to have to click the button. There he is. That's Max. Wave. Oh, let me turn your audio on. There we go. Okay, now you can hear him.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Okay, there we go. So,
cool.
This is Max. This is Russiancatfood. This is the head honcho guy of Voron. So, starting off, give us a quick background.
Hey, everybody. Well, I'm kind of seeing the stream 6 seconds delayed, so apologies. It's a little confusing. But, yeah, my name is Max. This is my shop, and this is where all the things happen. There's a Voron logo here, and there's a Voron logo in the thing. There's a Voron logo in my shirt. Voron land. Where do I begin? Yeah, I'm basically the founder of the Voron project. It used to be a company, MZBot. I'll get into it a little bit later. I'll let
yeah, we'll come to that.
Kind of lead the stream. Yeah, but now it's a fully open source project, and I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's I think it's doing more well than anyone ever would have thought at this point.
I completely agree.
Especially
and by the way, thank you for having me on the stream.
Oh, no problem. I told you I would hit you up when I start running out of content when I'm waiting on stuff to show up. So you knew this day was coming. David, 1999, thank you, appreciate it. It's Max, M-A-K-S. Max. Oh, we have another guest.
All right.
There we go. Say hi. Can you say hi? Hi, you gotta be in bed.
Oh, my goodness. The baby is here.
You're supposed to be in bed. Hi. Can you say
hi? I remember when you were born.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, because there's a story there. Okay. Have a good night.
No Vorons were involved in making this child.
Okay, so see, I told you we always have some sort of distraction during the stream. So,
Absolutely.
So Max, why 3D printers? Because your background is not hardware, if I'm not mistaken.
No. I mean, I like 3D printing and I like robotics, but I primarily went into software development. So my core competency, if you will, is in software development, and that's, you know, that's my day job. That's what pays the bills. That's what finances everything, most everything in the shop. Up until recently, at least, like when the donations started kind of rolling in a little more, there's more money to be had for equipment and things. But yeah, software is kind of my main gig, and that's what I do for money, if you will. I always liked robotics. My first job was at a security company, a security camera company in Fresno, California. And that's kind of where I got my first introduction to 3D printing. They had this ancient SLS printer that had a tub that was like the size of a horse trough, and the laser was sitting above it. Basically like a laser SLS printer. Kind of old. I think it was 3D Systems. This was like in 2001 maybe.
Was that the one from Small Soldiers?
I possibly, maybe. It was old. It was like one of the first 3D printers, I think. But it was expensive. It was not, the fumes were awful. But it was the first time I got introduced to, like, you can take a thing that's in your CAD and then you can print it and then you can touch it. And it was like, my mind was blown. And obviously none of this was like affordable to me. So I always wanted to like invent stuff and build stuff. And I think originally I wanted to develop drones way before drones were really popular thing that everybody knows what they are. And 3D printing just seems like a thing to manufacture custom parts that you need out of plastic. So naturally I borrowed a 3D printer at first, and then I actually bought one. My first 3D printer that I actually owned was PrinterBot Simple Metal. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, the company doesn't exist anymore. But it was like a solid steel construction, stamped metal, powder coated. It was a beast. What it didn't do is it wasn't quiet, it wasn't fast, and it wasn't large. It was like a 6x6 build area. So what I really wanted eventually was like Ultimaker.
Here, I'm gonna try pulling it up on I'm gonna try pulling it up here. Hopefully we don't lose audio. But there's your.
All right, we'll see.
There's your PrinterBot metal right there.
Nice. I can't see it yet. I will in 6 seconds. There it is. Yes. So I modified the hell out of that thing to be able to print ABS so I can bootstrap my own printer. Because what I really wanted was like an Ultimaker 2, which was like the hottest thing in the market at that time. And $2,500 was kind of a lot of scratch for me at the time.
The first the first printer I saw in person, my shop that I work at has a MakerBot Replicator 2, I think, the X2. And looking back at that, like, we still use it, and I look at the print quality on it, and I'm like, oh my god, why do we still use that?
I have no idea.
It's old though, so I give it that. I give it that.
I couldn't tell you. They put their money in, they invested it, and then nobody wants to touch it again.
No. So, okay, so you started with the PrinterBot. PrinterBot to MZBot. What's the story with that?
MZBot was actually founded. So my wife eventually, in 2015, my wife became pregnant, and naturally, what you do at that time is you start a company.
Yeah,
don't
obviously,
do that.
Like that makes perfect sense.
No, do not do that. It was 2015. It was like the second wave of the 3D printing madness on the internets. So I thought, while I was developing the Voron into more streamlined design that I can maybe potentially at some point turn into a product or a kit or something, or at least like release it open source, because whatever was a prototype that was posted in 2015 wasn't exactly
Lost audio.
Are we up? Are we there?
Yep, we're there.
Cool. Sorry, my screen decided to dim and go to sleep.
Okay, so you're talking about the 2015 prototype?
Yeah, the 2015 prototype that was posted on Reddit. It was like I forgot what the title of the post was, but it got more. Yeah, that thing. It got a lot more feedback than I thought I was going to get on it. It was a coreXY design. The bed wasn't quite figured out yet, the Z stage of it. But I knew that I wanted to optimize it and make it better and make it a little easier to build, a lot less parts actually. Maybe not use IDEX bearings on it because those didn't work out so well. So while I was developing that, it was a direct feed and direct drive, direct feed thing. It basically had like my version of the Greg Wade extruder on it. Like it's basically the same thing that LulzBot still uses. If you guys saw the video that they released, it still uses that giant 80 tooth or whatever tooth gear that they have. Yes, that thing. I basically wanted a smaller extruder on it, and then the second idea was, other printers would like smaller extruders because they can go faster. And then I thought, that's a great idea. I can sell that as a kit. So I started a company. And then decided, you know what, that's probably not going to work out because doing accessories with 3 printers is not exactly a profitable thing to do. Yeah. And it just sounds like a lot of work. So naturally, I developed Voron into a kit that I can sell. So MZBot was still around. So in 2016, I finally got finished version 1 of Voron that was actually released to the public. And I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to do open source development and open source philosophy even within the scope of the company, because a lot of lessons that I learned were from LulzBot, who like do hardcore open source. Like they use FreeCAD and OpenSCAD. That was a step too far for me, honestly. I like Fusion. It's a more usable CAD software. So I wanted to stay open source basically from the very beginning. So I actually finished. So my daughter was born in January, and then in March of the same year, I released Voron. I actually finalized the Z stage for V1 in the hospital while my wife was in labor. Like at least in my head. Like I brought my laptop with me so I can do some tinkering and some like actual like day job work stuff. But I didn't really touch it much. But that happened. So around the same year, I announced that I'm going to do a limited run of kits.
Yep.
Built up a bunch of kits, start shipping them out. By the time I got done with shipping all the kits, I realized that that's probably going to be the last run of kits because it was a miserable experience. So I kind of stepped back from business operations of MZBot and kind of went back into more of a development, and then started working on the 1.5 upgrade, which had the clicky tool head. And then around the same time in 2016, Reddit kind of started exploding.
I can't remember I don't think I used that tool head, the 1.5, because
I think you jumped. I think you went straight to like a modified tool head that was released.
Yeah, I used a modded one, and then I also had the 1.55, which we don't talk about. Nope.
That never happened.
Nope.
Sorry, piece of ice. So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that covers kind of like the beginnings of the company, right? In 2017, I got approached by a gentleman from a company in Minneapolis that wanted to use Voron at his company, but he wanted to scale it to like 0.5 meter. And being a shrewd businessman that I am, I said, hey, how about I design you a 3D printer? Yeah, that thing. So V24, which is Voron 24, which is the name comes from 24 inches by 24 inches by 24 inches. That way. It was a massive beast that originally started off as a 3D printed thing, but then I realized quickly that I needed aluminum, so I bought a Shapeoko 3 CNC router and started milling parts and designing. And I think that took me most of 2017. I got them a good deal because essentially they were getting the first semi-production version of that printer. There were two ever in existence. One of them was in my shop for the longest time, and that was my prototype. I kind of wanted to have, kind of like the JPL has two rovers. They send one to Mars, and then they keep one to do tinkering on.
Yeah, in case they ever need to get Matt Damon back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So same concept. If I ever need to get Matt Damon back from Minnesota or Minneapolis, yeah, that was my plan. So I actually flew back. The printer got finished, shipped, and then I flew out the week after to kind of set it up and do a bunch of stuff on it. And then that was beginning of 2018, and then about the same year, started working on taking the concepts of that printer, which is the moving gantry and stationary bed, and turning that into what became Voron 2. That's when so early 2018 is when the development happened with Voron 2, or at least it started.
Yeah.
And in the middle of, so V2.0 was never actually fully released. We announced it, and then at that exactly same time, some things happened. Basically, MZBot went away. Yeah, that thing. That printer was never officially released.
The front crossbar, belt coffin, so we could spend so much time ripping that thing apart.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. But if you squint, you can kind of see the bones of what the Voron printers look like, the modern Voron printers look like. So there was a lot of ideas there. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But once MZBot was no longer a company for various reasons, one of them being that I didn't want a second job, essentially. There was, when you run a business, people that have run their own businesses before, they understand that it's not just like, oh, it's this thing that I love doing, but also there's this other thing that I don't love doing, which is like accounting, and then
yep.
There's a whole bunch of overhead with running a business, and that wasn't fun. Like, I love tinkering, I love creating things, but running the business part of it and making sure that you're profitable and in existence and paying California $800 every year, regardless of how much money you make, for the privilege of doing business in California, it wasn't fun.
It is a privilege.
So all of that basically folded.
Yeah, it's turning your hobby into a job is not something to be taken lightly, especially when it's a one-man operation.
Unless you have a really good plan for doing that, I highly advise against it.
Yeah, unless you can make that hobby a job and you don't need to do your job, then that's the way I look at it. I live in Santa Cruz. I live in like California Bay Area. It is very unlikely that you'll ever see me, come on YouTube and say I quit my job, because there's no amount of Thangs and Thangs or Wraith Shadow Legends. First of all, I'm probably not gonna be a YouTuber ever. Second of all, there's no amount of donations or anything that I can generate to support a mortgage on this house and my wife and my kid. You need financial stability.
Yeah, because otherwise there's nothing will ever happen here because I would never be here.
Yeah, it's whenever somebody asks me why isn't Voron a company, my canned response is how is PrinterBot doing? Yep. That's
a whole separate story that we're not going to get into on the stream. But yeah, essentially, running a 3D printer company based in the United States is hard. running a 3D printer company in one of the most expensive areas to live is it's pretty much impossible.
Yeah, it pretty much the. Oop, I lost you again. Yeah, pretty much, in my opinion, the cheap China printers kind of killed any chance of that.
Yeah,
because
100%.
There's no way you can compete.
Yeah. Give me just a second. I'm going to turn off my printer my laptop trying to go to sleep on me.
Yeah, I think we got a little desync there.
1 2 3 1 2 3 test 1 2 3.
I think we're okay.
Okay,
Close
cool.
enough. Close enough.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Here we go. Screensaver.
Yes.
Never. Thank you. All
There
right.
we go.
Now we're back. Sorry. Technical difficulties.
It happened. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
V1, MZBot, no more MZBot. Voron Design becomes a GitHub page with a Reddit, and was Slack around? Slack was just kind of starting around then. Something like that. The community.
Yeah. It was basically Voron was left as just a faceless project, the Voron project. And I thought it'd be nice to have a letterhead essentially for the whole endeavor that we're trying to do. So Voron Design was born. I put up a website. I redirected the MZBot website to the Voron website. Then once I kind of got back into the swing of things, I started working on actually finishing and making V2 like a usable printer. So that's where V2.1 is born. And that printer actually did, get a manual and a full proper release and all that stuff.
Yeah, 'cause when I joined in, I got a monoprice Select Mini. So for my history, I've only been around for actually 3 years now. V2 or Tallboy, which was a V1, got its serial in March of 2018. So I got my monoprice Select Mini for Christmas in 2017. I outgrew that by a day after Christmas. And then how I found Voron was what you do whenever you find a new hobby. You look for the subreddit for that hobby, and then you search by top, and you go, show me what you got. And at the time, your post from the Voron V1, the original one that I showed earlier, was on the top. And I'm like, oh, that's neat. And then from there, I joined the Slack, and then that was that. So I started ordering my V1 parts when the first V2s were getting their serial. And then like 3 months later, I'm like, wait a minute, I want to build one of these ones too. So.
There's a funny story about serials. Every single one of the V1 kits that I shipped had a letter that I printed. Like I went to Kinko's and had it printed on super nice paper, and then I signed every single one of them and put it on top of the box when I closed it up. And that had a serial number on it because I think serial numbers are cool. And then people started posting on the Reddit about their kits, getting their kits and getting their letters, and then people that kind of build their own printers because again, it's open source, so you don't have to have a kit. You can go and get all the parts yourself. People are like, well, we want serials too. So then we had to figure out a way for them to a system on Reddit to figure out a system on Reddit to give them serials and provision them serials. So that's kind of where the serials come from.
Yeah, because everyone always asks about that. What's with the serials? What's with the names after the or the numbers after the names on the Discord? And it pretty much boiled from the fact that the original kits kind of had serial numbers, and then people started building their own and said, hey, I want one too. And it just kind of naturally became a thing. And it's just kind of a badge of honor type thing. Like, hey, I built one and it works. I got a cool number. And it lets us know just kind of roughly how many are out there. And let me check right now on... what are we at right now, serial-wise? Because I know we're over 1,000 V2s. Yeah, so right now we have 1,839 total serial Vorons. And a good chunk of those are in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Which is insane.
I wonder why. I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that everybody was stuck at home.
Everyone is stuck at home. Everyone's
Including
vacation budget is out the window. You can't go anywhere. So you might as well buy shiny things on the internet and build stuff. So
that's right.
That's kind of how it is. So 2.1. So yeah, because it was 2.1.
2.1 was released 2018, I believe. 2019.
Yeah, it was summer 2018. Because we kind of like wasn't worth finishing up 2.0. It was just kind of start scratch. I think that was just after I built mine.
Yeah, 2019 we had 2.2.
Yep.
And then I kind of surprised everybody with a 1.6 because pretty much everybody assumed that V1 was dead, and I refused to kill it.
Oh yeah, and that's a lot of things. The V, and like the V1 and the V2, it's not version. It's Voron 1, Voron 2. That's the names. Everyone thinks the V2 is automatically replaces the V1. It's not. It's Voron 1, Voron 2, Voron Switchwire, Voron 0. That's what the V stands for. So yes, it's like ATM machine, where it's automated teller machine. It's Voron 2. But
yeah,
everyone gets.
I'm very sorry about the numbering. It's confusing, and I've stopped doing the numbers for the printers. As you notice, the last two printers that were released were named actual name, so like Switchwire and Legacy.
Yeah.
Because hopefully at some point we can transcend the number schema and go into like a name. So actual when people refer to a printer, it's not, is it version 2? Is it Voron 2? What is it? So.
Yeah, because so we had the Legacy 2.2, and then this year with releases.
Nothing.
Nothing. Well, actually, no, nothing so far this year. But last year, I mean, last year. Last year. You still think you're in 2020? We're in 2020 Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. So.
Yeah, extra innings. 100%. Really, 2020 is not going to end until we all get out of lockdown.
Pretty much.
If we're being honest.
So yeah, so...
But yeah, last year we released 5 printers.
Yeah. There was what? So we had, in order, we had 2.4. Switchwire. Or no, 2.4 and 1.8. And 0, right at the beginning. Yeah.
0 is the important one there.
Yeah, 0's that guy, which you can't see because it's cropped out. But,
yeah,
so the 0, which had been in development, 0 was in development the longest, I think. From like an initial inception to a release, I believe. So,
right.
Was it over a year?
So, yeah, it was, I started 0, was it before, or I think 0 started development during the 2.1 development. I was still back in like my previous house that I was renting.
Yeah, it was like in the spring of the year before it was released. Winter, spring.
And then I had an opportunity to like purchase a house because A, we found a house that we liked, and B, my rent was going up again. So we decided to stop paying our landlord an atrocious amount of money and start paying the bank an atrocious amount of money. So we decided, hey, we're going to move. That kind of put a halt on all Voron development because, A, moving house to house is a humongous deal. Moving house to house with like a 3-year-old is mind-boggling.
Yes.
This shop was a complete disaster for solid 4 months, I think. Things were just shoved in here and then just left there. And every time I opened the door to try to like maybe try to set it up, I gave up and closed the door and went back into the house.
You've got it pretty clean right now. Your setup makes me a little bit jealous right now.
You know what? I'm finally at a place where I like where things are, and I'm going to stop moving them, and I'm going to bolt things through the concrete.
Yeah.
I don't like these 2 benches right here because they're wobbly AF. So I think my next purchase is going to be some Uline heavy-duty benches that I can just Tapcon into the concrete, and then
Just
I can
make
stop worrying
sure,
about
yeah.
it.
Well, you got to be able to open the garage door to get the Haas in, right? At some point.
Yes, the Haas.
'Cause we gotta, you gotta machine that yacht somehow, right?
Yeah, it's true. The yacht. Forgot about the yacht. I don't know where I'm gonna put the yacht.
Yeah. Hang it from the ceiling. You got enough aluminum extrusions. Just start building a frame for it.
Yeah. So V0 basically sat there unfinished. It was in a pretty rough shape. Like a whole bunch of stuff just wasn't designed at all. And then when Nimgria joined, he kind of like, oh, I want to do this. Kind of picked it up and finished it.
Yeah, I'm pulling up some pictures from the dev. Because it was pretty much like the original revision of it was what? We had 4 extrusions right at the beginning. It was just 4 extrusions. And everything else was printed. Or something like that.
Sorry, I have like bugs flying around here. Yeah, it was... The original idea was fully 3D printed. It was a horrible idea.
Yeah.
The second idea was, let's put some extrusions in there.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the guide?
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, if you have the manual, you can look at the back of the manual. But yeah, a lot of printed...
Oh.
Yeah, right there. This one right here was like the original, and that was the 6mm rods, the 4 extrusions only, everything printed, and just, yeah.
I still remember I still have those parts somewhere in here.
Oh yeah, I got 6mm rods still because of this. Because that was like, we were like, yeah, let's do it, and everyone started ordering stuff, and that was where the whole ordering stuff, and then by the time it shows up, it's depreciated kind of started from.
Oh yeah, that's Voron development for you.
Yeah.
And there's a belted drive. Z drive.
Right. Yeah, belted drive, which mine now has a belted drive in it. The 100mm bed originally, because it was smaller.
Yep. I still remember when Lal Module bought a whole stack of 100mm beds.
Yeah, he was going to hook us all up with beds that were too small.
and then things changed.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, he was going to repurpose those. He was going to either etch or I think he was going to etch the Voron logo in the beds, and then he was going to give them out at MRRF. And what happened with MRRF?
Oh.
MRRF.
Why you got to bring it?
I know that was going to be okay. So for those unawares, the Voron team, we had what, 2 booths at MRRF 2020.
Yeah.
We had 2 booths. The V0 was going to be announced at MRRF. The V1 and the V2, or the V1.8 and 2.4, I think were going to be shown off at MRRF. It was going to be this huge thing. There was like 20 guys like on the Voron team like going. We were all going to like hang out at Buddy's house and like park in his driveway and sleep in his driveway, basically. It was going to be this huge thing. And then the Rona. Yeah. That kind of put a damper on a lot of things. So.
True.
But it happens. Maybe next year. Maybe next year.
Yeah. Well, at this point, Voron has so much of a following that I think we can probably put together a small Voron con and have more than like 12 people show up.
Probably. But the problem is everyone's worldwide, right? That's the only downside.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, let's have it in Southern Ontario so I don't have to drive anywhere and like, and we can't even cross the border because of the pandemic. So it's like, yeah, I don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. It's just me. Yeah. So that was the beginning of the year. Were those 3? 2.4 is rock solid. So that was kind of like we threw everything in the trash. There was no 2.3, like there was no 1.7. It was pretty much.
Yeah, it basically got canceled.
Yeah. So for those unaware, because people ask me, basically we took, well, I didn't. I can't CAD myself out of a cardboard box, but
you're getting better.
I'm getting better. At the time, I couldn't. But basically, instead of building upon what we already had and trying to fix issues, it was basically, let's take everything that was learned and start from scratch. And that's why there was no 1.7, because 1.7 was based on 2.3, and 2.3 was basically, why are we building upon something that we think has issues in it? Let's just start from scratch. So
yeah, and the goal was kind of like reduce complexity, reduce part count. make it easier, make it better.
Yeah, because it was getting too
It may be
complicated.
Yeah, it may not be as pretty as 2.2 because 2.2 had a lot more accent parts and kind of
Oh yeah,
like assemblies just were bigger and more complicated. 2.4 is definitely a lot more utilitarian, if you will. But I'm Russian, so Soviet, yes.
yeah. Soviet tractors. How long were you using them DRVs for again?
Oh God. For those who don't know, the loudest stepper driver you can ever use is a DRV 8875?
2.5.
And 8825, yeah. And those things are great because they never overheat, ever. Like, you don't even have to have a heatsink on them or a fan. And so, yeah, DRVs plus ramps was my jam all the way up until 2019, I think. I finally got on board with the modern drivers and SKR and things and Klipper and a whole bunch of other things. Like,
Yeah.
we've spec'd it into printers before. But the last printer that I took apart, the 1.5, still had my ramp stack in it.
Yeah, because that was the thing. Up until Klipper, it was ramps. You had ramps strapped to get two of them strapped together, or a duet running rep firmware. That was like the only way to get because it was around mid 2018 that the Klipper thing started. I think 2.1 spec with Klipper, right? Was 2.1 Klipper spec? I believe so.
Yes, 2.1 was the first one to spec Klipper. And I keep repeating this, but Klipper really made printer like Voron 2 possible because you can basically plug as many MCU driver boards into your Raspberry Pi as you have USB ports. So you can basically have infinite steppers. On ramps, you have to you have to have special like stepper expander boards, and when you couldn't really move X, Y, and Z at the same time.
Yeah, it was like 100 millimeters a second was where it topped out at. I believe something like that.
It ran out of horsepower basically to like pulse 7 steppers.
Yeah, and then the alternative to that was rep firmware on a Duet plus a DueX, which at the time, I think the clones had just started coming out, but it was still like an expensive option. So being able to just slap 2 cheap ramps together easily with Klipper and still get Duet speeds, that kind of really opened up the... it's a coreXY. You don't want it going slow.
Yeah, the whole point of you building a coreXY is you want to go fast.
Yeah.
Must go fast.
Exactly. Plus, Klipper is just... We can add stuff to it so easily. All the bed leveling and whatnot. I think Maglin just kind of like pinged Kevin and be like, hey, we want to do this. And like a week later, Klipper was doing the mesh gantry leveling, no problem. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I remember the first version that I wrote for QGL, quad gantry leveling, was for Marlin, actually. And originally, the first version of QGL, or the routine known as QGL at the time, was written for V24, not 2.4. V24, the big printer.
Yeah.
And it was done in Marlin. And I had like a $200 controller board that actually supported all the drivers on the same board. And ran okay. And then when we started using Klipper, porting that code to Klipper was like a week. So the development speed between doing everything in Marlin and C and like doing development in Klipper, which is Python, is night and day. Like, you can do a whole lot more stuff. You can be a lot more accurate with your measurements. You don't have to take shortcuts because you're running on an 8-bit processor from the 80s. Like, it's completely different game.
Yeah, 8-bit processors need to go bye-bye.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Yeah, so where were we at? So we had the 2.4, the 1.8. So then summer, Switchwire. That's when you put that one out.
Yeah.
That was all you. So V2.4 was you. 1.8 was Eddie, the engineer, who's in chat. And then V0 was Nemgria. He's the one who took the pile of plastic and 4 extrusions and actually turned it into a proper printer. So
And
this was
some
coming to the-
semblance of a CAD model.
Exactly. So this is like 20 early like late 2019, 2020 is kind of when it became more than just the printer's view design, where like the quote unquote dev team kind of was putting out their own things at that point. Because
It wasn't.
I don't
just
think
me.
you did anything on Zero, the current like the final iteration. Did you do any work on that? No. Yeah, that was all
I didn't
Nangria.
touch it.
So yeah, so last year in like a little bit of 2019, that's when like the whole, because it's not really a dev team. Everyone keeps calling it the dev team. It's more of like a cabal, a think tank at this point, because it's just the crew. It's just people throwing stuff on the wall, and occasionally one guy's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna make this," and it's like, "Okay, that's a Voron thing now, I guess. Sure, that's cool." So
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we're still selective about what is a Voron thing. But yeah, it's not just me, which is nice actually. I still don't have a V0.
yeah,
I
we
keep
remind you of
apologizing
that.
for it to Nimgrea for it. I have all the parts. I have parts to build too. I haven't yet because other things like Switchwire, for example, and Legacy.
So yeah, Switchwire. That
Which
was
isn't
the
plugged in.
next one. That was what, two months, something like that, right? Not even.
The dev process for Switchwire was about 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Originally started off as a capstan system, which is pulleys and fishing line, because I wanted to go full rep.
Yeah. And that's where the name comes from.
It was such a nightmare. It was awful. Don't do it.
But
In fact,
we got the
the
name out
only
of it,
guy
though.
that ever did it. What was that?
We got the name out of it though.
It's true. We got the name out of it. But the only guy who ever did it, we actually found him and asked him on his YouTube video, like, why would you do this? And he said, don't do it. Just use belts. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. Done.
I remember that. It was the it wasn't the idler. It was the parts that go on the stepper motors for winding it up. It was like a machine part, I believe. And then
There's only one company in England that makes them.
Yeah. And I pinged him on. I'm like, hey, this YouTube video from like 2011 that hasn't had a comment on it in 6 years. Are you still around? Can you answer me this question? He's like, don't do it. Just don't.
Honestly, I was shocked that he replied at all.
Yeah, I figured it was long dead. Like, how many YouTube accounts are completely inactive?
Exactly. It was crazy. So yeah, it was a coreXY because I wanted the Z to be fast.
Yep.
And we haven't done a coreXY before, and it's core, so it kind of fits with our ecosystem. We do core things at Voron Land.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Can't not do that with a lead screw.
Exactly. You don't got to worry about lead screw wobble at all. It's lighter. It's cheaper. It's faster. Basically, there's really no disadvantage, other than you have to buy a keypad, which is $12.
Yeah. So yeah, just wanted a more low cost platform. Plus, it allows you to tinker with your printer more. It just has more room in it than either the 1.8 or 2.4, which is why yours is set up for dual extrusion.
Yeah, it's a great test bed because it's being a bed flinger style. Your tool head can really be as fat as you want because there's nothing to hit. In my case, I don't have mine enclosed, so I can literally throw anything on there and it'll fit. coreXY, you have to worry about hitting your Y rails basically. So plus it's fun. That's the one I use for all my. It's taken over as my random PLA printer, just because it's just super simple and reliable and it just works. So
So the nice thing about bed flingers is you flinging the bed through the mass of air does extra cooling on your parts, which is why printing ABS on bed flingers is hard.
Yep.
You're literally just like taking your part that's ABS and continuously swinging it through cold air. It's not great for it.
Exactly. So with PLA and with it being a Voron running clipper, it goes faster. So that's even more cooling with PLA. Right? Makes total sense.
More cooling. Must go faster.
But yeah, that was your early COVID. I'm going to cope with the pandemic. I'm going to design a printer in like 2 months because why not? And then Shipment screwed me, and I got serial number 2.
Aw,
Okay, I'll get a serial
sorry.
number 1 day. I got a 2 and a 3. Yeah, this is
Someday.
Someday.
One day.
One day.
The guy who got the first serial for Switchwire was Steve, who did most of the QA on it.
Yeah, he tore apart his.
Yeah, it was basically just me tinkering on it, and then I'm like, oh, it's perfect, it's great, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna build one too, and then a barrage of this is wrong and this is broken. I'm like, god damn it. So Switchwire is awesome because of Steve. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, he ripped apart his Prusa to help with that.
Yes. Long live your Prusa.
And then Legacy. That was the last one to come out last year.
Yeah, Legacy was like a Christmas gift. And it was, I think this is going to be the last printer that I do in a vacuum, essentially. Because what I wanted to do was like, okay, if you're in Discord and if you're certain level into the Voron land, basically, you get to see the development process of some of the printers, basically. But if you're part of the dev team, yada, yada, yada. What I wanted to do was kind of like go back to the MZBot days where it was just me tinkering in the shop. So most of Legacy was developed in complete secret. Maybe like 2 or 3 people knew about it. So when it was released, it was just as much of a surprise to the outside world as most people on Discord or most people in like the Voron community, basically, even like the Eternal people. And I mean, I just wanted like a vintage printer, basically. I miss the rotted printers. I'm sorry. It's just so clean.
There's an aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, people. I've heard the term resto mod. People use that as a term for Legacy. Yeah,
100% resto mod for sure. It fixed a lot of issues that 1.6 had. So if you had a V1 or V1.5 or 1.6, the Legacy is if you're not quite ready for linear rails and the whole rebuild, but you want like the afterburner system, that's where you need to head.
Exactly. And there are a few people jumping on it. It's new, but that is the newest Voron. So when people ask which one is the newest Voron, I always say the Legacy, which is a resto mod of the original. Because it's the newest. It's got to be the best.
You know what? Dunar on Discord, basically, that was his first comment when I released it was, yes, but what people are going to say is that's going to be the latest printer that Voron Design released.
Yeah. And
it's not the best.
It looks, honestly though, I like the aesthetic. That with a 180 millimeter bed. That with a 180 millimeter Prusa mini bed is what I would do if I were to do one. I think it would
I believe there's a mod for that.
I think this with the Prusa mini bed, 180 millimeters roughly, would be a nice size. That's kind of if I were to build one. Please don't build a 300 millimeter one. Please. Got 8 millimeter rods in it. I've done 8 millimeter rods at 300 millimeters. Please don't.
Yeah, isn't that exactly what you did?
Yeah, Tallboy. That's why Tallboy's not a V1 anymore.
Yeah.
I did. Let's do a 330 by 330 or 300 by 300 by 400 V1.55. Have all the bearings explode. Have a modded single motor Z that cracked all the mounts and wobbled to all hell. Yeah. Man,
300 millimeter builds is why 1.5 effectively failed.
Yeah,
because you can't do clicky bed mesh thing.
Yeah.
on giant 8 millimeter rods.
Hi, Doc. Doc's here.
It's Mr. Piff.
Yeah. If you guys got any printed forward questions, make sure you see Doc directly. He'll answer anything you got.
Hey, put up his cell phone number on there.
Yeah, here's his cell phone, his private Twitter, his private...
Let me pull up his address so you can go actually visit him in person if you want it.
Yeah, he's got a nice.
Let's doc. No problem there.
Please don't. Please don't. Please don't.
Please don't
Anyways,
he's a good person.
exactly. He does a lot of work for the community. The PIF, for those that are unaware, if you want to build a Voron and your printer can't print PLA, or correction, your printer can only print PLA for whatever reason. If you want to print ABS, I have a video series on how to do it. It's in my channel. Make sure you're subscribed. But
3-parter too.
I know. But Printed Forward is where you can pretty much get printer parts to build a Voron, any of the Vorons, from people who have built Vorons in ABS. Prints are great. Cost is, you'll never find a better cost. The only downside is there is a little bit of a queue because everyone wants to build a Voron right now. So.
I don't know why.
In-person PIF.
We didn't expect such a rush.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, and then CNC Kitchen did his video on the Zero. Yeah. That... You could see the metrics.
That was amazing.
Yeah. That was the first time... Because a few big... Because there's never been, like, Voron... There's never been, like, your Hackaday articles about it or anything like that. It's kind of like those that know about it. And
Yeah,
it comes
it's
up
not
in,
really
like,
mainstream.
and then every now and then somebody would mention it, and then CNC Kitchen's video is like the first big, like, top tier, hey, look at this shiny thing.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, that was amazing. I honestly, like, when the video came out, I knew it was coming out because Stefan's been talking with a few dev team people. I knew it was coming out, so when the video finally got released, it sat there and I didn't want to watch it because I was nervous. Because, like, what are you gonna say about Voron?
Yeah, I don't count. I have less subs than that video got in its first day, so that don't count.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
But yeah, so he bought a kit. Everyone's buying kits now, unfortunately. It's not a company, so it doesn't really affect us either way. If you buy a kit or source it yourself, nobody's making money on our end. But if you get the kits, just be careful, because right now everyone's buying them, and there's a lot of scummy kits out there. So if it is CN random numbers and the store's been around for a week on AliExpress, it's probably not a good kit. Okay, just see what other people are buying. Ask on the Discord. Just be safe, guys. If you're really that worried, just go to the sourcing guide. Every single item on the sourcing guide has been used by a dev in their printer. Pretty much my whole 1.8 build that I'm going to be doing is directly from the sourcing guide, except for the LDO parts. But it's LDO. You guys know about LDO. They make good stuff. So just go through the list and click and add everything to cart, and you'll have no issues with any of those parts. You won't have to, oh, hey, my SSR burned my house down. You won't have that issue. So, yeah. Back in my day, we didn't even have a sourcing guide.
We didn't.
Yeah, it was, I covered it on the one stream where it's, here, watch the V2 interlude video. Here's the folder of STLs, and annoy a few people in the Slack who have already built it. And good luck. Build your printer.
Yeah. Have fun.
So,
regarding the kits, I think you mentioned that in your previous video, a previous stream where you basically you went shopping on AliExpress.
Pretty much.
One of the things you touched on was look for listings that actually have, like, don't look at the ratings, look at the purchases.
Yes, the orders.
Because if there's a listing that looks too good to be true and has like 0 purchases or one thing sold, it's probably not good.
Exactly. So when you go on AliExpress and you search, NEMA 17 motor, at the top you can search by, like, I think it's like there's a few different options. Search by orders. See what other people are buying, because odds are if everyone's buying it, it's usually either the cheapest option or the best option. So,
or both.
So there is good stuff on AliExpress. It's just you got to be careful, because there's a store that sells the product that, the factory made on the third shift that, was just kind of excess. And then there's a store that sells the product that the factory made and then QC failed. So it's the same product from the same store, but they got it two different ways. You got to be careful about that. So.
Yeah.
And then buy a legit SSR. Don't buy an Ali SSR.
Yeah. Get one with like a UL certification, preferably.
Yeah. Omron, Cridum, a legit one.
Yeah. Literally anybody, any SSR that was made, and hopefully not a knockoff, but was made by a company that is potentially liable if it fails.
Exactly. So yeah, so that is all the Vorons. So that's kind of like from there to here. We touched on the V24, the V2, V1, all that. So, out of all the ones you have worked on, what design decision was your biggest regret?
Oh God, that's a good question. I believe the 110 loops in 2.1 and 2.2. The loops that connected the motors to the shaft that actually drove the X and Y. That was just not a good idea. And those were actually transplants from V24. And the reason V24 had them, and by the way, V24 was built out of aluminum, so completely different tolerances and completely different thing. V24 ran NEMA 17 motors and required a 2-to-1 gear step down to be able to do that. So when I basically transplanted that into V2, and it was basically for packaging at that point because, I've done that before, it works. It works well on metal parts. It does not work well on, especially when you're using those. Yes, my second worst choice was, my second bad decision was Astrocin, because the gangster lean and the belt squeaking, it's
yeah, because it was like, hey, at the time it was A4988s and ramps. They're loud and annoying. Let's use Astrocins to make them not loud. Okay, now the motor's leaning, so to get rid of the motor lean, let's connect it to another drive shaft that doesn't lean so that it cancels it out. And we're just piling shit on shit at that point.
It's a band-aid on a band-aid on a band-aid on a band-aid.
And that's kind of like why 2.3 never existed. Instead of keep fixing what's there, just start new. That's one of the things on 2.4. It doesn't have those.
Direct drive. All the things.
And it just works. And now we got the TMCs, and it's not a problem. I legit thought you were going to say the printed idlers or the belt coffin.
We don't talk about belt coffins, because that printer was never released, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, true. Oh God, nothing was worse than why prints look like garbage, and then you look a little bit in the belt coffin, and you see fragments of belt, and you see parts of an exploded printed idler, and you're like, well, I know what I'm doing this afternoon.
Yeah, 2.0 was not a refined design. When I actually took mine apart, I took them to my driveway and doused them in ISO and lit them on fire.
You know what I did with mine?
Yep.
Yep.
It was good. It was a good video.
Yep. I'm gonna try and find it here. But while I'm doing that, okay, out of all the Vorons, the opposite question: what is the one design decision that you're the most proud of?
Afterburner.
The Afterburner. Yeah.
The Afterburner made 5 printer possible, or at least 4 printers possible in 2020, because the development of a unified or semi-unified, at least, sorry Nimgria, your V0 is too small for Afterburner.
It's
having a unified tool head
thing
for all the printers just simplifies the design a lot. And I don't know, I like it. It's awesome. Yep. Well, it's the baby version of it for V0.
Yeah, the V01 is kind of like a weird. This is actually a really nice tool head. This is still the old revision. I haven't printed the newest one. I actually got some new parts in, so hey, that might be a stream thing in a little while, or I'll do a video on it. But Afterburner
content,
because it's pretty much all the Vorons except for Zero use the Afterburner tool head. And hey, an LGX drops right into it miraculously.
Weird.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how that works, but apparently it's a good design if Bondtech is making drop-in stuff for it. So yeah, so that's actually, that's one thing we didn't touch on, all the extruders. Because there's a lot of Voron extruders.
Well, there's a whole video that I released on like the history of Voron extruders.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so is that on your channel or on the Voron Design?
Voron Design channel.
Okay.
My channel doesn't have anything on it yet.
Yeah.
It will at some point.
The for those unaware, there's a lot of Voron extruders. There's only the one on the site right now, but
they're kind of like up there. Most of them are up there, sitting on the shelf.
Yeah. So yeah, they're I got M4s on the Switchwire, and that's good. I like it. It works.
Yeah, we got the belted extruder on V1, which was like the lightweight extruder that I was gonna sell as a kit for other things. It was basically like the reason MZBot got formed to begin with. And then with V2 came the new extruder, which is the first version of Mobius. And then we have a whole bunch of Mobius revisions until M4 release. And then Clockwork, which is the direct feed extruder for Afterburner system. And then the Pocket Watch. I didn't do the Pocket Watch. That was all Nemgria. But Pocket Watch for V0.
Okay, for the guys in the chat, this is Nemgria's LGX. It's going to go back to him. I have my own now.
Yay!
He will get it back. But yeah, in regards to belt coffins, this is what I did to one of mine.
You found the video, huh?
I found both of them.
Nice.
So one of them I drove over with a 30,000 pound forklift. Okay. And then the other one, I dropped I didn't drop, but I gingerly placed a 100,000 pound front fascia injection mold on it. So, let's see if I can get it.
Gingerly. Good night.
So yeah, that's a 100,000 pound mold. So if you want to see what happens to eSun ABS Plus when you drop 100,000 pounds on it, that's what happens to eSun ABS Plus.
I cannot believe you stuck your hand under that thing.
I locked it out.
Okay.
Safety.
Cool.
So yeah. So the belt coffins were kind of, a lot of us got rid of them in creative ways. Put it that way.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
So yeah, so that is kind of the there to now of Voron. Anything you want to bring up before? I think we'll do Q&A after.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of like printer development going on in here. A lot of it's just like kind of like we did 5 printers last year. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
Right now I'm basically trying to reconfigure the shop and set up a little better. And
I think a lot of the team's kind of working on like personal projects right now. Like I've got Avro where I'm working on that, and some other people have their own thing. So I think it's kind of cool that everyone's kind of came together for all this, and now everyone's kind of working on their own things using input and stuff learned. Just because I didn't know CAD, I didn't know any of this. Like there's so much you pick up being involved in a design group for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. So. Oh, and just because everyone's going to ask, to get on the Voron Design team, it just happens. Be a member of the community.
Yeah.
Just kind of do your thing, and if you get noticed, you get noticed. There is no application process. If you try to contact anyone on the team and be, oh, hey, I know how to print plastic upside down in space, that probably won't help. You kind of have to, start by building a Voron and just kind of be a member of the community, help out others. If you get noticed, you get noticed. And if you're worthy of being on the team, you'll probably get noticed. It's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, if you show up early and often and make yourself visible and become an active part of the community, and then you have some chops that are useful to the community in general, or you design some cool stuff and submit it to the Voron mods or Voron owners GitHub, like.
Yeah.
And by the way, you don't have to be part of the Voron design, like core design team to release anything for Voron. You can there's a whole stack of mods on Voron owners. That's really hard to say. Voron owners GitHub that people have done. There's modifications for Afterburner to use 5020 fans, and a whole slew of things that you can do.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the Voron users.
Is it Voron users?
Yeah, Voron users, printer
Yes.
mods.
Voron users is significantly easier to say.
So yeah, like these are all mods people have made for Voron. So it hasn't been the thing for a while, but people still bring up, oh, Voron, you guys don't allow modding and So that was kind of a thing back in the day, but it was for a reason, right? That was because we didn't want everything getting fractured, kind of like if you want to build a hypercube now. So if you want to build a hypercube now, you have to download this part from Thingiverse. You got to go, this guy has a GitHub with this good Z drive, and it's kind of like you have to go to a million places to get a working printer. And it was all download the STLs, follow the manual, build the printer, and it just works. We didn't want, people modding this and then somebody basing a mod on a mod on a mod, and it just became a mess. And then that kind of evolved into, we don't allow mods, but it was really never that case. It just, we kind of never really made them official, and now the floodgates are open. Like, Afterburner started as a mod, pretty much. Well, the idea.
Yeah. We had a bit of a come to Jesus moment in 2019 where we were like, let's reevaluate things and maybe look at things differently. And then, that was right before Afterburner was released, like Christmas of 2019. And then 2020 happened.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah, because for the longest time, it was like, direct drive on a coreXY, that's useless. It's going to, so much of a detriment, it's not going to be worth it. And then, I can't remember who it was, slapped a BMG on it, and it was like, actually, no, this works just fine. And we're all like, well, damn.
Hey, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
Let's do that. And then here we are, like, I'm slapping a full-size LGX on it, and it has no problem slinging this around at full speed. And it's like, that's actually not much of an issue. Because if you have a well-designed printer, 100 grams is really nothing. So.
Exactly. Things got lighter, and our gantries became more rigid due to linear rails. So kind of like, it's no-brainer.
We're not using 8mm rods and acrylic frames. So the printers are rigid.
We're not?
Aluminum extrusions are like the best thing to ever happen. Like, these aren't rep wraps. Like, people are like, this is a rep wrap printer. It's honestly, nowadays, rep wrap's pretty much dead, in my opinion. Because rep wrap is self-replicating, and, there's that whole ethos of you're printing the parts for the printer. And yeah, we're doing that, but rep wrap doesn't have, milled aluminum or machined aluminum extrusions and, like, whole bombs of material from Aliexpress, and you're printing basically connector parts. So these are not rep wraps. They're custom 3D printers.
It's basically a DIY printer.
Yeah.
It has its the Voron project has its roots in rep wrap.
Of course.
Because, that was the hot thing in 2015. But really, I mean, we're not using things like threaded rod.
Oh God.
From Home Depot.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a buddy at work. He was the one who actually got me started in looking into 3D printers. He has one of those Prusa Mendel kits that, like, you found the designs online, and it's all threaded rod and nuts and washers, and like he showed me a picture of it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then like 2 years later, I'm talking to him like, hey, look at my Voron V2, and he's like, yeah, mine doesn't look like that.
Why? That's funny.
Aluminum extrusions are awesome.
Yeah, they're like, what's that? The kids version of that.
Meccano?
Yeah, Meccano for adults.
Pretty much. You could do so much with aluminum extrusions.
Yeah, I mean, this laptop is sitting on a lay-down desk that I built for when I broke my back last year. So I could basically like do work while laying down. So it props up my laptop vertically.
Yeah.
And it's all built out of extrusions. It's actually a Voron frame that I kind of hacked up a little bit. 350 spec frame
you
that
sent
I
me
never
a
built.
picture of it. Let me see if it's okay to share.
I think so.
Yeah, I gotta make sure there's nothing in the background. Yeah, I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, your screen's fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're okay. So, yeah, this is, hey, aluminum extrusions. You can make anything out of aluminum extrusions.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's not precarious at all.
No.
There's a lot of clamping.
You got
and
some
things.
F clamps on it. You're good.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not going anywhere.
So, anything else you want to chat about, or do you want to go to Q&A part of this? How's your camera battery?
I think kind of... Huh?
How's your camera... Oh, are they after you again?
The cops?
Yeah, are they after you again?
No, I live next to a busy street, and there's no insulation in the shop.
I know, I gotta work on my garage to get that insulated.
It is thankfully, like, coming down. It's only 24 degrees Celsius in here now.
Oof. Oh yeah, California.
It was, for Americans, it was 85 today in Santa Cruz. Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's warm. Yeah, for March,
Yeah.
that's warm.
It's toasty.
Okay, so Q&A, I guess?
Sure.
Open it up. Okay. Q&A. Who has questions?
Swap to my other thing.
You can ask me, you can ask him. How's your camera battery, by the way?
Oh, it's not. It's actually like the laptop, so.
Oh, you're on the laptop? Okay. And I'm actually legit impressed how good the audio and visual quality we're keeping up here. So. Okay, so if you have a question...
The microphone is... Let's see.
Oh, lost you. We lost him. Lost him, Jim. Paulo, I'm going to be trying that. Toasty Boy, I have a spool of CF nylon and CF polycarbonate and glass-filled nylon. I'm going to be trying a bunch of that stuff. Oh, we got you, and then we lost you again. David, to my knowledge, no, you would have to grind the notch yourself. One second. Stop with the questions. If you have a question, at me, because I'm going to read the questions. So if you have a direct question, at me, and then I'll direct it. If the question's for me, just say to me, and then at me, RCF, if you want to ask RCF. He broke it. 5 printers in a year. Can't figure out headphones. Oh, there we go. He's back. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
I'm here.
Okay. There we go. Oh, we're getting feedback now.
Uh-oh.
Do you have headphones?
Yeah. Let me make that happen.
And we lost you.
Not as seamless as I thought it was going to be.
There we go. It happens.
Apologies. Is this better?
Okay, there we go.
All right.
Okay, so we got a million questions here. If I miss your question, just ask it again. I'm just going to go through chat. What inspired the flying gantry?
The flying gantry was inspired by me looking at other big printers. The one that really, I can't really think of it. It's a 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter printer. The bed on that printer, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of it. I'm thinking it's a German company. It was a large scale printer, large format printer. The bed on it is actually not connected to the printer at all, so you can kind of wheel it out. And it made sense on a larger printer like V24, Voron 24, to have the bed not be movable because it's enormous. So,
yeah, that makes sense. Reseller program. If you want to sell any Voron like parts or printers, the flea market in the Discord would probably be your best bet. Selling kits were a miserable experience. Why?
it's a lot. I wanted the kits to be as plug and play as possible. So assembling everything basically almost to the point where it was a full-blown situation. The thing that took the most time, it was wiring harnesses. So, taking all the wires, stripping them out, measuring them, cutting them, crimping all the connectors on them. That took the longest, I believe. And just making sure that things get shipped in the right order and things get packaged properly. And there's a lot that goes into like properly like taking a kit and making sure that you didn't forget anything, because some of those kits were going overseas, for example. Like, it's not easy for me to, oh, I forgot to send you these belt loops. Well, I guess that's another $30 that I'm going to eat as a business to send you, 2 little belt loops or whatever. So yeah. And honestly, just running a business in general while having a full-time job, while having a newborn child, it's I don't recommend it.
Nope. Yeah, and for Doggo, he's upstairs. He didn't come down, so he's probably in the bedroom. Thoughts and opinions on the Fysetc Spider controller board? I don't know if you've seen that yet.
I have. It looks like a cool board. Obviously, we've had input into designing it. I personally didn't have input into designing it. People that are smarter than me as far as the electrical stuff goes had input in designing it. So I trust opinions of the folks that are on Voron Design team that know about the Magic Pixies. My knowledge of electronics is, it's there, but it's not like to the level where I'm going to design circuitry for myself.
Yeah. I have KiCad on my computer. I opened it once and then realized I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, I knew this was going to come up. Why not 3-point leveling instead of, why do we do 4-point?
So, let's see. Hopefully this is the last time it's going to come up. It's not.
Nope.
The gantry on V24 is U-shape, which has 3-point leveling works great for a rigid plane. What you're leveling on a V2 is a picture frame that's flopping back and forth. So it's actually supported on all 4 points. And to make that thing coplanar with the bed, you need control of every single of the 4 corners to make that happen. Because the only rigid part is basically the thing that spans from one corner to the next corner.
Yeah, 3-point works when you have 2 rigid planes. We don't have 2 rigid planes. We have a rigid plane that can warp with heat, and then you have a U-shaped gantry. So that's basically why.
Yep.
V1 with kinematic bed joints in tandem with future non-planar slicing. I've seen people use the the Jubilee bed. Somebody's modded the Jubilee bed, so you could do that if you want. Who knows what's in the works with that? But yeah, non-planar slicing, the thing with non-planar slicing, as awesome as the Afterburner is, it's not really designed with non-planar slicing in mind. If you want to...
Yeah, it's a little chunky on the sides.
Yeah, you need a tool head that, like, something... Like, I got a Fetus high flow here. You want a tool head that is as narrow as possible so that when you're doing fancy curves, you're not dragging the nozzle on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when you got, you know, an Afterburner, which I don't have one. Oh, I do. Come here, Afterburner.
Maybe we should bring back the diamond hot end.
So when you have this, as you can see, these stick out too much. So the tool head would have to be redesigned with that in mind. And probably if you redesign it with that in mind, you're going to lose normal cooling performance or something. So.
Yeah.
Okay, this one was at me. What is my first printer and what made you want to build your own? It was a Monoprice Select Mini. It was ungodly tiny. It was a good little printer at the time, but it was 120 millimeters cubed, so the same size as the V0 actually. But I started looking into modding it to make it bigger, and then I realized there's no... Completely rebuilding a printer to mod it to something bigger is... You might as well just build a new printer. And I started looking, I looked at Fusebox, the Hevo, and Voron, and I ended up building
I remember
the
Fusebox.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was that. Tool changers. Is there going to be a Voron tool changer?
Not for me.
Yeah. Basically, the only one that could really pull it off would be the V1, and there's no...
Yeah.
Nobody on the team is really working on it. Remember, it's not a company. Yeah. We kind of... People work on what they want to work on. So if nobody wants to make a tool changer, nobody's going to make a tool changer.
Tool changer is such a niche of a niche of a niche. Yeah. Like, tool changing is not going to be mainstream 3D printing ever. Like, that's not going to be a thing ever. The thing that that tool changer allows you to do is run multiple tool heads, obviously multiple materials. It's something that even MMU is going to be struggling with, is like mixing materials. So if you want to mix, you know, squishy stuff like TPU with PLA and ABS and sprinkle in some magical unicorn dust on it if you want, that's your way to go, because yes. If you want to do two things, there you go. You have Switchwire with dual extrusion, essentially.
Which you could put that tool head on any of the Afterburners. You could run dual extrusion. It's just a Y splitter in there. So that tool head works on a V2, a V1, a Legacy, etc. It's just, I like it on the Switchwire because it's easier to mount the extruders. They're not moving around in the Y. They only move in the X and the Z.
Yeah, for sure. There is a thing that E3D did recently where they put... I think they put a motor with an end mill on one of the tool heads and like started doing milling things.
Yeah, for when your printer can't print parts accurately, here, why don't you mill them instead of, you know, just tuning your printer?
It's.
I'm waiting for somebody to Z negative China and end mill through a mains heated bed.
Zap. Pretty
much. What do you print other than printer parts?
That's a great question. A lot of stuff for the house and the shop. I can't pick that up because that's actually supporting the wire for my camera. But I have a lot of rolls of pink PLA because my daughter loves pink things. So things for my kid. Literally, most of the things I print are functional prints. My wife was doing a promotion for the health club that she teaches Zumba and spin at. So I needed to build a camera, like a shoulder camera rig. I didn't really feel like spending $1,000 for a shoulder rig for my Canon camera that I'll probably never use again. So I like build one out of extrusions with like the printed shoulder mounts with like a little padding on them, and like printed a few other parts to like mount microphones to it and things like that. Basically anything that is, you know, I would spend whenever it's more than $20 or $30 that I can get from Amazon. I usually just CAD it up and print it out of ABS, and it seems to work fine.
Yeah. For all
So
those
that's
out there,
my primary use of it for sure.
don't be like me and put off learning CAD for like years if you have 3D printers. Just take a crash course, watch some YouTube videos, learn how to do some basic CAD, because you'll do so much more with your print. You'll take so much better advantage of them. So that's one thing I've kind of started doing is like, oh, hey, this little hook broke or whatever. It's like, oh, hey, guess who knows CAD now?
I mean, not everything has to be a 3D printing project.
Yeah.
I think some YouTubers do like, oh, I'm going to 3D print this because content. But honestly, that could have been a 2x4 with a nail in it. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Any other printers that the team takes design cues from? So I guess this would be what inspired you for designing printers. Like, what other printers do you look at besides other Voron stuff?
A lot of stuff. Like, I learned to use the Mizumi parts configuration from looking at the published bombs from LF Objects, which is the parent company for LulzBot. Former Lul. I guess they're back. I don't know.
They're back, but they're not off one, I think.
Huh?
LulzBot is back, but it's owned by a different company now.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, artist formerly known as LulzBot. I looked at LulzBot for kind of like how they did their extrusion stuff. I didn't really look at their, like, the neon green style. A lot of camera equipment, a lot of automotive designs, the latch system on some of the extruders was actually inspired by the pod mechanism on a Keurig. If you ever if you have an older Keurig or a newer Keurig, if you open it up and look at like the mechanics of how it latches and not latches, it came from that. Basically, like, it's not just a printer. Like, if you're designing something, you're usually looking at other things that people designed and taking inspiration from that. You naturally at some point just start looking at, like, how is that made? How is this build? How is that designed? And you start trying to get into the head of the person who designed it in order to understand it better, and then borrow it.
Yeah, inspired by. As long as you don't copy it piece for piece, it's just inspired by. Why Voron, and what does Russian cat food mean? Like, name-wise. Where'd you get the Voron name? What does it mean? Why Russian
Voron means raven in Russian, and it was because the printer was all black. And ravens are usually black, so there you go. And it sounded cool, and it's not too Russian, so people don't get too put off by it. The Ivan Ivanovich printer. It's that would not fly. It maybe, like, hipsters would love it.
I don't know. I get a lot of Russian comments on my videos, so there are some people in the motherland enjoying your printers.
Yeah, and Russian cat food was my name in Counter-Strike back in like 2000s, because it was unique enough because Russia didn't produce cat food, at least when I was there, the 90s.
Yeah, we all have the CS 1.6 handle that we're still using. For those that are unaware, for Nero, it's not the Roman Emperor. It is literally the 3D printing, or the 3D, or not even the 3D, the CD burner software. That's what the Nero name comes from. I needed a name to create my first Hotmail account, and I was told not to use my real name. So we had Nero burning software on my desktop, and I went, Nero, that sounds cool. And I had just played a video game where one of the bad guys was an Uber soldier. And I'm like, Uber Nero. Okay, we're going to go with that. I was like 11, and I've just used it since then. I'm 33 now. So yes, that's how that name came about. It has nothing to do with the Roman Emperor. It's Nero because he burned down Rome, and that's why the burning software is called Nero, but I didn't even know that at the time. It was just, that name sounds cool.
It makes me feel old, because Nero, you were 11 when Nero was around.
I don't know. We had an old computer, so.
Yeah. The chat is insane.
Yeah, I know. I've been for those that donated. I'm sorry I couldn't give the shout outs. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of everything, but you know who you are. You guys are all awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you use to design?
Fusion 360.
So Fusion 360,
By
and
Autodesk.
you use it on a
Mac.
with a
Laptop.
with a trackpad.
With a trackpad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I can pinch to zoom and rotate parts with my fingers. Somebody came up, it's actually a question came up yesterday on Discord. Somebody was like, oh, hey, do you use a 3D mouse? And I have one, and I hate it, and I never use it because I never really got used to using it. It seems intuitive. It's like a little knobbing thing, and as you twist it and rotate it, it's supposed to twist and rotate objects in space. But something about that doesn't connect in my brain. There's like a little bit of a cognitive dissonance thing happening where it's just really frustrating.
Okay, I gotta 1 second. We gotta delay the stream.
Okay. The doggo is here. Oh, hi,
There you
doggo.
go.
Hi, doggo.
You all done? Yeah. But you gonna lie down? Scratch your ears.
He's a good boy.
What, did you want to come down? My room's a mess. I gotta clean it again. Yes, yes, yes. You're interrupting the flow of everything. We had a good flow going. We were in the groove. What,
Is
you're
that
gonna-
Mrs. Nero?
Yeah, that's my wife.
Hello.
They say hello.
Hi.
Okay, that's where I'm supposed to stand. I can't be in frame now. How am I going to be in frame?
Doggo is new.
It's just,
Oh my god, that's amazing.
okay. There we go.
Dude, that dog is huge.
Yeah, he's what,
That's
100,
awesome.
115? He's 115? Yeah. Yeah, he's Shepherd Husky, actually. So, yes,
Ooh.
all the fur.
That's a big boy.
All the fur.
If you notice my legacy video, there's a whole bunch of dog fur on it.
Oh yeah, like if anything in this room touches the ground, it gets covered in fur. So
Yep.
whenever you get a 3D printer, if you have any sort of pet in the house, print one of those little foam filaments, like scrubber thingies, whatever they're called, that clip onto the filament spools as the filament goes through to get all the dust and whatnot off. So yeah. Duff, $6.99, Doggo, thank you. Which printer is Doggo's favorite? He doesn't really care.
Because he's a dog.
He's a dog. He once came in here and watched one of them, the V2, going for like 2 minutes, and then he left, and that's like the only time he's ever engaged with any of them. Okay, so now I gotta catch up. I want to brush him. It's the shedding over here. Yeah, I can't. If I pet him too much in the house, I get covered in dog fur. Like, he just... all the fur.
You gotta invest in the Furminator.
Yeah. We got a Dyson animal or whatever the heck it is. Am I excited about... or both of us, are we excited about LIDAR scanners coming to phones, which they already have, where you can scan an object with your phone and start printing... Oh, okay, so if you had like an app on your phone, so you could scan something with the LIDAR and then generate an STL and then print it. Are you excited about that?
Sure. I think we had several. Like Face ID was the first implementation. Face ID was the first implementation of LiDARs, at least front-facing LiDAR.
I think so.
And then the new, the current phone has LiDAR on the back as well. Yeah, I remember when that was being developed and stuff. It definitely opens up a whole new territory to be able to like 3D scan stuff. So if you want to print yourself a close approximation of a real object, you can totally 3D scan it and 3D print it.
You're not going to get the dimensional accuracy.
No, sorry.
You can't scan a Voron part, print a Voron part, and then put that on your printer. They're not that accurate.
You're going to need to get a drill and a whittling knife out to be able to get that to fit.
What do you think are the main unresolved issues with 3D printers to see a broader adoption moving forward?
That's a open-ended question.
That's a pretty open. Okay, so on my end, I work in injection molding, right? So I'm used to a machine pumping out a 9-pound front fascia tool. That's like your whole car bumper every minute, 20 seconds. So it's the time and the fact that they're still complicated for home use. If a Keurig machine takes more than like 10 seconds for somebody to figure out how to make it spit out coffee, a 3D printer is going to be above your average. And I mean, I'm talking about like an average home appliance. It's way too complicated for that, and they're not reliable enough to be a home item yet at the price point where they're entry level. So
people can't really figure out regular printers yet.
Yeah. It's like
that's a whole new territory.
It's like flying cars. People can't drive in 2D and you expect them to do 3D.
Exactly.
So
yeah, if you want to know when 3D cars are going to be happening, just drive through LA once. And then you will never ask that question again.
There you go. According to Thangs, you can upload your LIDAR images to Thangs, or your LIDAR model. So there you go.
Nice.
I unfortunately, I don't have an Apple or fruit company phone, so I can't do that.
Okay. Well, dude, if the stream donations keep going, you can totally afford an iPhone.
I don't like iPhones, though.
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay. Voron 3D
I'll
scanner.
stop shilling.
The fruit company. Which Voron do you consider, like, okay, what is it? Which Voron is closest to your heart for both of you? Why, and why is it your favorite?
I think Legacy for me, because it's kind of like the throwback to the original Voron.
Do you have a specific...
That said, my Legacy has been unplugged for about 3 months at this point.
Okay, no, I think you meant like, I don't know, because you could take that question both ways. Which printer do you have in your shop right now would answer that question. Like the actual printer itself, not the model.
The printer that I have in my shop that's closest to, that's like my favorite?
Yeah. Or the one you hold dearest.
You know what? 1.8.
The 1.8?
Because that's the one I use all the time. There's a little Suncast jobby over there where basically like all of the Voron printers lived ever. I couldn't really print ABS inside my little apartment when my kid was born because nothing is more sensitive than a mother of a newborn's nose. So there was no ABS printing at all. So it had to live outside on a patio. And ABS doesn't work well on a patio at night for a number of reasons, raccoons included. So it went into like a Suncast shed to be basically to be able to print overnight so I can, keep prototyping while I'm sleeping. It then like 1.6 got moved into there, and now it's the home of 1.8. And out of all the printers, that is the printer. The V1 series of printers is the rock solid like printer that I use all the time. Yeah.
See, for me, it would have to be my V226, which is the one way over there. Because that's the one, and you know what the story with ordering that one was. I built Tallboy, which this was originally a V1. Okay, this was originally V1 100, and it was my first Voron, and I did what everyone does, where they build too big. And I realized, you know what? I don't need one that big.
Naturally.
I'm going to build a 250. And build more 250s, people. It's a great size. Nobody wants to build 250s. But it's a 250. But one, it's my workhorse printer. That's the one that's got the most hours on it. It's super reliable. Like, it's still running beta first edition afterburner parts in it. Like, it's still got the chonky afterburner in it. Like, I haven't updated it from the original afterburner. It's still working just fine. Because I'm one of those, if it's working, I don't play with it. But I ordered the extrusions for that when my wife was all doped up on, whatchamacallit, an epidural in the hospital while she was in contractions giving birth to my son. So I kind of like, honey, while you're, is it okay if I do this? And of course she said yes, because I didn't take advantage of the situation. I didn't take advantage of the situation. But she said yes. So yeah, so that one's got history. So that's why, that's my V2. That's my favorite. So
nice.
Yeah, I totally did not take advantage of that situation.
Totally. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, this one's at you. Any interest in a Voron Resin printer?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. But a longer answer. I have 2 resin printers in my shop now. I have a Elegoo Mars 2, and I have Apex 3D that got donated to me by one of the Voron dev guys, or part of the Voron crew. And honestly, the resin printers, especially the LCD resin printers on the market today, are an LCD screen with a Cheetah box Cheetah board. I have one in the box right there. A Z motor or Z motor with a plate and a little vat of, resin to go into it. Every single one of those printers is basically the same. It has the same components. In order for you to build one, you have to source at least the LCD printer, the vat, the Z you probably build yourself, but you probably shouldn't. And then the Cheetah board, and then maybe a controller screen to go with it. Once you're done with that, plus doing the extrusions for the outside and yada yada and all that stuff, you're basically, it costs more at that point to than like buying an off the shelf Elegoo something. So it doesn't really make sense. Plus you're gonna have printed parts on it that are not as rigid as like the milled aluminum parts that they use out of the box. So it's better to buy one off the shelf and then just mod the heck out of it. It doesn't really make sense. Like, there's nothing that we can contribute to the current layout, the current way the resin printers are done, especially with the LCD, that company like Elegoo or Anycubic or whatever haven't already done better. And when you go up to the next level of big boy stuff, which is like Formlab stuff, which has actual like galvanometer and lasers and cures at a different wavelength, that's a whole different level of technology that we can't really do open source.
Yeah, the cost,
because there's not a lot of off the shelf parts to do that with.
Yeah, the cost of resin printing dropped pretty hardcore in the past year and a half, 2 years. Because you can get the Elegoos and the Mars and whatnot for $200-300. So, like, Prusa missed the ball there with their SL1. Because at the time it was like, oh yeah, that wasn't bad, and then like all these super cheap ones came out that are bigger, and there's no way you can compete. That's kind of a
it just doesn't make sense.
It's not a market that you can get into DIY and make it worthwhile. I don't.
Yeah,
think.
You will spend more money and end up with the worst thing.
Yeah, so no Voron. Plus, not many on the team are into resin, and it's a pain to deal with all the chemicals and whatnot, and it's boring.
Yeah,
it's a screen and then a Z that goes up and down. It ain't fun. Somebody asked, I can't find it. You don't have to make a square coreXY. You can make it rectangular if you want.
Yeah.
So
you totally can.
I've seen a few. A few people have done wide boys, but not many. I've seen a few 250 by 300s, or I've seen a 200 by 300, I believe. But it's not common. But yeah, coreXY, you don't have to make it square. see here. Somebody asked earlier, do you want to go any bigger than a 350 for Voron?
I mean, I've done the 24 by 24 thing. Honestly, because of the space constraints in my shop, currently no, but maybe. I don't really. Maybe somebody that somebody else on the dev site can basically take the Voron 24 CAD and adapt it into something that's 3D printable, large format printer. But large format printing is a whole different ballgame, to be honest with you. It requires more space, like physically. It requires more time.
Square cube law is a thing.
Yeah.
Like, put it in perspective.
So,
this little toaster here was 4 hours, okay? Little doors pop out, so it's a little bit bigger than it. But this is like a 4-hour print, okay? This is at 50% scale. At 100% scale, now granted this one failed, so it's not the whole thing. But at 100% scale, it's 16 hours. Because when you double the volume, it's 8 times the mass, basically, right? Because it's yeah, so 50 to 200%, it's now 8 of them, basically. Square cube law, look it up. So when you now want to print something that's 24 inches by 24 inches by 24 inches, your print time is now in days, your filament's now in spools of filament, and your power flickered for a second. Or you had an extruder jam, and now it's all in the garbage. Or you could just do what most of us do and just print it in parts and then acetone weld it together.
Yep.
Plus heating that much of a volume. What was the size of the bed heater on V24?
It's I couldn't go above 1.5 kilowatts. So it's basically the size. It was the size of a hairdryer.
Yeah. So how many amps is that pulling?
At 128 volts, 1.5 amps, 1.5 kilowatts. I'm not going to do that math in my head.
It's a lot. So you're using a lot of power, and it's a lot of volume, and it's and what do you get? Most honestly, what most people don't print full volume. If you do, there are printers for that. A square, a square or a box framed Cartesian would probably be your best bet for like the massive frames. You don't have to worry about belt stretch, and it's simpler, and that's what I would personally do if I needed like a meter by meter printer. But yeah.
Plus, big coreXY machines are not a good idea because coreXY means 4 times the belt width, the belt length for each run of the X and the Y. So for 500 by 500 by 500, you're looking at 4 meters of belt. There's only so much you can do with tensioning that belt before you end up with just a ringing mess.
Exactly. Yeah. Does the Voron team make money only from affiliate links? Pretty much. There's the affiliate links that go into the dev fund and merch.
And the donate button
and
on the
donations. Website. Yeah. That's pretty much it. So, yeah, everyone makes money on Vorons except for the actual Voron team. So, Big Tree Tech, Fysetc, LDO,
LDO
vendors,
loves us.
LDO loves us. David, if you're in the chat, printing solid, he loves us.
Yep.
It's Sparta 3D. They all love us. They're all making the money, but none of us want to deal with running a company. So that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
That's
honestly, I've never been happier because I get to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like
you don't
these
have to
things.
deal with it. And the thing is,
and
you
there's
don't have
no
to,
overhead.
You don't have to worry about a printer you're designing. Oh, it's not selling. We're not getting the volume. You just go, okay, whatever. I don't care. It's like there's zero stress. It's just whatever.
It's nice. I like it.
So yeah. So everyone on the team has full-time jobs. This is all hobby for us. Like the only one that actually would be closest to being this a job is my YouTube channel. I think I'm the only one that actually would qualify. And I still have a full-time job.
Gotta pay down bills.
Cameras and lighting and building printers and CNCs. That's where it all goes. Any thoughts on the Stratasys patent expiring and Voron and other companies will? So I'm assuming you're meaning about the chamber heater. So if I'm not mistaken, it's the chamber heater and having internal motors, like or external motors, having the motors outside the print volume or outside of a heated chamber, I think is the patent. But the thing is, we don't recommend chamber heaters. So yeah, it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, that was a problem back in MZBot days because I couldn't ship you a kit that had a chamber heater and all that stuff because I would get sued out of existence. That was really never a problem for Voron Design because, again, not a company.
It's open source, too.
We can kind of do whatever the hell we want.
But we don't recommend chamber heaters.
Yeah, it's a really, really quick way to set your house on fire.
Yep. And then for external motors, if you got a V1.8, I might do it on mine. I'm building mine to be super insulated. Your video's going to crap quality-wise. Your frame rate's dropping.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
But V1.8, I don't have the CAD open, but for those that are unfamiliar with the V1.8, it's got a fixed gantry. I might carry on that backpack wall all the way to the top and just lose some Y and just have the motors outside just so I have a smaller volume to heat. It might be something I do on the design. We'll see. But yeah, when it's an open source project and you're building it yourself, you really don't have to worry about patents. You only have to worry about patents when it comes to selling stuff. So if you're building in your garage for personal use, you could do whatever the heck you want. You could build an exact replica of a Ferrari in your garage. As long as you don't sell it, you're not breaking the patent, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I am not a lawyer. Any thoughts on continuous belt FDM printers? So the Creality CR10, the Naomi Wu's print mill, that one. Neat.
I thought you did a video on that.
I did do a video simulating the issues that can happen with a continuous belt, because you're now printing everything on a 45 degree. So on some things, it's not an issue. But on other things, you can't print it if it's orientated wrong, because you now have an overhang, which on what would normally be like a very, like a 20 degree angle is now a massive overhang and you can't print. And depending on how a part is designed, you won't get anywhere near the strength. So for example, if you had a print mill and you wanted to print Voron parts, somehow you've managed to make it print ABS, because it's got a, I don't know, I don't think they can do ABS. I don't know. Nobody, I haven't seen anyone do ABS on one. But anyways, if you had it,
the enclosure would be huge.
Exactly. So if you were printing ABS on it, the problem is now. Let me grab random Voron part. Okay, this will work. But now this part, this is just a grill. But say this was like your AB motor mount, where your layers go this way, so you're nice and strong. Well, if you print it on a print mill, all your layers are now 45, so you're pretty much printing it vertically. So I have a video on my channel where I printed a bunch of stuff at a 45 degree angle. And it's funny because on the one orientation, you actually almost get like double the strength. And on the other orientation, you get like none. So it wasn't a scientific test. It was literally me pouring stuff in a bucket that just kind of simulate weight. But they are, depending on your use case, if you had a use case that was niche enough and could justify it, yes, it makes sense. But I don't think it's a mass market thing. That's my opinion. If you can take advantage of it, it would be great. But the majority of people don't need it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my yeah. So I don't know what your opinion is on it after you looked into them.
I have not. I know, actually, the PrinterBot guy was looking at the belt printers. And then when PrinterBot folded, essentially, all the stuff that he was worked on got moved to a different company. And effectively, they were developing it, getting ready for a release of that machine, and then Creality kind of beat them to the market. Because really, I mean, the concept is basically, triangular printer, the tool head is on the 45 degree,
yep.
And then the bed is a belt.
Yep.
Which there's not much to it.
You could do on a Voron quite easily. It's just you wouldn't be able to do the continuous mode. So if you wanted to have,
Yeah.
you know, your print finish and then spit out of the printer, you could easily have a rolling bed in a coreXY, especially a V2, because the bed's fixed. You can make it, you know, you can literally put it on a treadmill if you want. And it would just spit out the part. It's just you wouldn't be able to do continuous where you print like your long anime sword for cosplay. You wouldn't be able to do that. So,
Yeah.
okay.
My goodness, the doggies.
Okay, people are talking about ABS. Why ABS?
Because it doesn't melt inside a chamber, inside an enclosed printer.
It's pretty much. How many PTG Vorons have we seen fail over the years?
Oh, multiple. Doc is a good.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even enclosed. His Doc's, if that doesn't know, Doc's Z carriages on his V1 were printed in PETG. And over time, the carriages kind of started sagging, and then the little captive nuts that basically go through the bed, through the spring, and into the Z carriage, kind of push themselves out and through.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, proximity to a hot bed plus stress plus heat equals bad times PETG, basically.
Yeah, it's heat creep. My tall boy was originally PETG, and I had issues with the motor mounts because the heat from the motors. I would have to retighten. Basically, the same issue Stefan had with his CF nylon, where he was getting creep issues.
That's
which
sad bad that just sagged down.
Yeah, and I've seen countless pictures on the fan shrouds, the ducts, motor mounts, XY joints. Basically, ABS is used because ABS is an awesome plastic. It's super common in industrial use and automotive. Well, ABS and ABS blends. PC would be great. The problem with PC is you expose it to grease or oils and it deteriorates. It gets brittle and cracks. So anywhere where there's bearings or your rails, you can get grease on them, and then your part's going to crack because it'll seep into it and weaken it. I have CF nylon. I was going to try printing Toasty Boy in CF nylon because it's going to be a hot printer. We'll see how that works. Yeah. So it's not just the glass transition temperature you need to worry about. It's everything else with the material of the plastic. Outside of 3D printing, I work in injection molding, do a ton of automotive. I've been involved with 2,500 plus injection mold builds over the past 7 years. I've yet to see anything on a car made out of a PET. And,
how many PAT bumpers have you done?
It's all PC ABS pretty much. ABS or PC ABS. Even ASA. You don't see ASA because ASA is pretty much ABS blend for UV. They now have ABS blends that are just fine. So it's ABS, whatever. There's hundreds of blends.
Yeah, important note about ASA. ASA is not exactly like ABS.
Yeah, it's,
ASA is more brittle than ABS.
Yeah, you may have. I printed ASA parts and didn't have issues. You may have issues with some blends, maybe.
There are a couple of things. Steve actually did testing on it, and then dropped it because nobody had time to do full-blown like testing on it. But a couple of parts that we printed, one of them specifically on Switchwire. One of them, I forgot which part it was. But basically, if you take two parts, one ABS, one ASA, ASA one was cracking and showing stress marks versus ABS, who showed a little bit more of a stress mark, but there's no cracking because ABS is more ductile than.
Yeah, you do want a little bit of flex in your parts. If they're too rigid, they'll crack. If you have like a nozzle crash, for example, like you don't build your car out of hardened metals. You use like soft metals in certain locations because you want a little bit of wiggle if you need to. And by the way, tonight found this. We're going with Wayne Gretzky 99 maple cask. Whiskey, Canadian whiskey, finished in maple syrup barrels. So it's Wayne Gretzky maple whiskey. So Canadian night.
Yay, Canada!
But yes, in terms of why we recommend ABS, we've got almost 2,000 printers in ABS on data to pull from. we've seen much more cases of failure with other types of plastic than ABS. ABS works. We know it works. That's why we recommend it. And yes, there are some plastics that are probably better in certain regards, but in terms of will you see noticeable improvements to be worth the added extra cost or hassle? Probably not. It's like everyone with the aluminum parts. There's a bunch of manufacturers on Aliexpress right now selling aluminum parts. Like they just took the SELs, modified them for machining, and then machined them. I've yet to see any compelling case to use any of them, other than a few certain locations. It might be better, like idlers, XY joints, stuff like that. But I don't think you'll see any actual performance difference. Don't waste your money.
You might actually notice some things don't work well.
Yes, a
case
lot
in
of
point,
things
somebody
don't work.
posted the other day, clockwork with the latch mechanism, but it's made out of aluminum from Ali, and because the latch is designed to flex as it like latches and unlatches, aluminum one don't flex, so it just doesn't work.
3D printing nerds here. Joel, I don't know if you can get this in the
Hello!
States. I don't know if you can get it in the States. I was just in the LCBO, which is Liquor Control Board of Ontario. Yay, Canada. But I haven't tried this yet. So it does smell a little maple syrupy.
Or you're having a stroke.
That is good. Ooh, that is good. I don't smell burnt toast.
Good. Good.
So yeah, so what else here? Hips. Actually, I've used hips. I like hips for, the problem is I think hips would be too brittle. It's really rigid, but I think it would be too brittle. Is the Switchwire what you would recommend for a dual color or an IDEX option? IDEX with coreXY is kind of funky. You have to add an extra belt and an extra motor. But in terms of like, if you want like a setup like my Switchwire where you have a dual extruder feed, I like the setup for dual extrusion. It's been working great for me. Yeah, roll with it. So.
When are we going to see 300% Voron belt?
300%.
Bravo.
Come on, Joel. You know you want to.
Don't do 300%. Just do 100%. Just
yeah. So I've talked with because I'm sourcing stuff for 1.8. In 2019, let me see if I can find the statistic here. So I was talking with a vendor. I won't say which vendor because I don't want to give out. I don't know if it would be personal data, but they are a bigger vendor of Voron stuff. So what is it here? So this is the ratio. So in around 2019, it was, in terms of 250, 300, and 350 size Vorons, it was 1 to 3 to 10 in terms of like ratio of stuff being sold. Okay. So for every 10 350s spec stuff that was sold, there was 3 300s and 1 250. Last year, it was 1 to 10 to 7. So everyone's building 300s now. People are still building a lot of 350s, and nobody's building 250s, which is kind of sad. I like my 250. It's good to see people are kind of stepping back from the 350. Personally, I think the 350... I know people who have built it in a room and they can't get it out of the room because they have an old house and the door frame's too small. So build as big as you need, not as big as you want. So. What about polypro? Can you get polypro filament?
I've never heard of that.
I've used, like, we use it at work. I use a lot of glass. Well, the molds, I don't use them, but the molds, there is a lot of glass filled polypro. It reeks to high heaven. You don't want to print that in your house.
No.
So let's see here. Can we do an any percent V0 speedrun competition? Oh God. So V0 is like a clock. Okay.
Here we go.
You have to take your time to build it and you have to follow the manual. I think watching like 10 people try to put it together as quickly as possible would be absolutely hilarious, because you know somebody's going to forget an M3 nut and they're going to have to tear the whole thing apart. I am not
Game
doing that
over.
again. I am not doing that again. And somebody kept asking when point one's coming out. Point one is coming out when it comes out. Soon.
TM.
When you start belting the gantry, does the gantry have to be perfectly level, or will software automatically level it? So when you put, I have a video on my channel on how to de-rack a gantry. So watch that. It'll kind of give you some additional information. But when it comes to like actually installing your gantry, what I do is I install my gantry on the rails and it's all flopping around because nothing's holding up. And then I use zip ties and hang it from the top with zip ties and make it kind of even. And then I run my Z belts and then I run my XY belts. It doesn't have to be perfectly even when you run the belts. For your Z, your QGL will take care of that. And then for your XY, you can manually do that and watch my video on de-racking. So, yeah. 1.9, I have no idea. Yeah, and the smaller printers are easier to work on. Like, I'm building V1.8 is going to be a 250 because it'll be smaller, easier to heat up, whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, every single printer in my shop is either 250 or smaller.
Yep. If you don't need big, don't go big because it's larger volume to heat. You're going to run into more issues with, not more issues, but it'll be not as easy to tune. It's just, smaller is better with 3D printer.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
What is the story behind the Voron logo, which is on that clock above your head?
And right there on the thing and on my chest. It's actually my initials, M and Z. If you squint, you can kind of see it. MZBot, which is my initials bot. It was I commissioned the logo. If you want to dig deep enough, go to like 99 Designs and do a search for MZBot, and there's some gems that were submitted. But one of them I actually liked quite a bit, so here we are.
Yeah, so that was the MZBot logo and it just became the Voron Design logo.
Yeah.
It
It was a good logo. I like the logo. It's got my name on it.
It is a nice logo.
It's fine.
Why was there no Voron bed leveling device? What does that mean? You got a probe. You can probe the bed and level it.
I'm not 100% sure what that means.
Norbert, point one will be out when it's out. Who decided on the eyebrows on the Z idlers?
That was me.
You know why?
I wanted the eyebrows.
It's because they're idlers.
It's true.
I think I made the
I'm
joke
actually really sad that he didn't put the eyebrows on the milled parts, the aluminum milled parts.
I think I made the joke in the chat. Somebody made a joke that it looked like a funny face, and then I drew an MS Paint with the angry eyebrows, and then you actually went and put it in the part.
Yep.
And then
that's exactly what happened.
It's because
and then somebody else made like a Soviet style logo where there's a whole bunch of them marching with like a red, and it's like war on land or some kind of like a quasi communist poster. It was amazing. I had it as my background for a long time.
It comes up. Okay, so this question comes up all the time. Which Voron is a good starting point with somebody with? Okay, so he's asking with experience. So what would you recommend for somebody who has no experience, and then somebody that has some experience with modding printers or building printers?
No experience, Switchwire. Some experience, V1. More experience, V2. That's kind of a toss-up, and that really depends on what you want out of the printer in the end. If you're looking for if you're looking to spend a little more money and get all the bells and whistles that the Vorons offer, build a V2. If you want a more stable platform that you can maybe do modding stuff on it later, build a V1. Whatever Eddie has cooking up for that. If you want a simpler build, and you're just starting out, Switchwire, because it's kind of familiar. It kind of functions almost like every other printer on the market today.
Yeah, there's nothing. I stream the whole build. Each assembly is 3 printed parts in an idler stack. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
your motor mount, okay, it's 3 printed part and screws. Your idler,
Yeah.
it's 3 printed part and screws and a bearing. Like it's
It'll take you longer to build up the afterburner assembly than
pretty
like
much
the rest of the printer.
pretty much. You can mechanically build a switch wire in in a couple hours. Wiring will take longer.
Yes, wiring always takes longer.
So
What else we got?
people wanting to convert enders, any of the i3 style, you should be able to convert to a switch wire, because there is,
Yeah,
for the most part. You may have to.
I actually did an ender conversion for a friend of mine and shipped it off to him, and then took the CAD and threw it to one of the guys that actually ended up, Gizzle, I think his name was. He ended up releasing it on Voron users after like he cleaned it up and made it actually usable. But yeah, he loves it. He prints like so it's an Ender 3 with all of the bells and whistles from the Switchwire, so it's a coreXY printer, afterburner, the whole 9 yards, and he has been printing drone parts on it, like a drone plane parts. So basically, him and a group of his friends over in Arizona are developing low-cost ArduPilot drones, drone planes, so that you can like program and like let it do like reconnaissance things, but like super low cost. Or you can do like FPV flying, kind of like a flying wing type of deal, where you put your goggles on and the remote control. So he's basically like, now he's like a kid in a candy store because he knows CAD, and now he has a way for printing all these parts and then assembling them, and like he's basically been printing nonstop.
So yeah, so basically switch wire, and then the V1, V2. Legacy, if you already have or you like the looks. V0 is a great second printer. If you really only need one small tiny printer, go with the V0. But if you already, otherwise, I would say it's a great second printer.
Tiny.
Yeah, it's a great backup printer, but it is honestly the most complicated build of all the Vorons. So, insulating a bed, yay or nay? So I'm assuming that means the. I've never done it. I've never found the need for it.
So, funny part, when you enclose the entire printer, including the bed, insulating the bed does nothing. Because bed not being insulated is actually to your benefit, because the heat that the bed generates goes into the chamber to heat the chamber. And if you insulate one side of it, okay, it's now less, like 50% less efficient at heating up the space that it's in. On a bed flinger like Switchwire, again, you're insulating it. Both sides of the bed are going to work to heat up the area. Actually, Switchwire, the chamber temperatures in Switchwire go up faster, simply because you are literally moving a hot piece of bed through the air and heating it up faster.
Yeah, I know some people have toyed with it. I'm going to do that on the V1 build, where I'm going to actually try and put some low power fans at the bottom and try circulating the air like a convection oven. See if that helps. Because for those unaware, you don't need a chamber heater in a Voron. Okay, if you insulate it properly, a 250 V2, I think it was 250 or 300, one of the smaller size V2s. If it's fully insulated properly, you can hit about 70 C just from the bed. Like, there's a lot of heat that radiates out from a printer. So if you insulate it properly, you just trap all that heat inside, and you can get some pretty high chamber temps. And on the bright side, you use less power because your bed isn't having to cycle on as much. So yeah,
exactly.
Insulate your printers. It's worth it. And a lot
Insulate
of plastics,
better.
like ABS, print better at higher temperatures. Yeah, you can print ABS fine at 40, but if you can get to 50, it'll be a better part. If you can get to 60, it'll be a better part. Like, the parts that come out of an injection mold will burn your hands if you touch them without gloves on. Like, you want it hot, and then you want it to gradually cool to room temperature as one homogeneous blob. You'll get better part strength, and you'll get a more dimensionally accurate part too.
Yep. Less internal stress.
So, okay, for the Switchwire, if you were to convert like an Ender 3 to a Switchwire, the advantages are the coreXY. So no more lead screw wobble. You're going to have a fast afterburner tool head. which compared to like upgraded tool heads on the current Ender 3 are, yeah. Ooh. Yeah, so you're getting coreXY, you're getting faster Z, no lead screw wobble, afterburner tool head. You're probably putting klipper on at the same time, so yeah. Basically all the stuff that makes a switchwire is pretty much the same if you mod it on an Ender 3. Because you can probably leave the stock bed and it'll probably just perform as well. Just B-wheels. B-wheels.
All right. I think that's going to be one last question for me because I got to drop off and go do dad stuff.
Okay, so last question. Who's going to have the last question?
Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be?
I don't know. We're not going to tease anything, so we're not doing that.
No.
No. What makes a Voron? Somebody asked that earlier.
That is a complicated question. Good last question, though. There's never really been like a written set of guidelines that said this printer is now a Voron. It's kind of like obscenity guidelines. You see it when you see it. I think the first, really the most important aspect of a Voron is it has to be thought through. You have to look at it in terms of the whole machine and making sure that the entire machine has some thought put into it. And then as you dive and zoom into the components, basically, every single one of the components has had some thought put into it. It has to be widely available, built with widely available parts, basically off-the-shelf parts. It has to be decent looking.
Cable management.
Cable management. No motors outside of the main structure, main cube.
Yep. Fully self-enclosed.
Yep.
Slap some panels
fully
on it.
Self-enclosed. Switchwire is the only, I think, the motors protrude just a little bit.
Yeah. You could fudge that if you really wanted to somehow, but
yeah,
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is it, I guess.
And you know what? It's never really it's not set in stone. So what makes a Voron is an ever evolving thing. I think people get into Vorons because of the things that we like about Vorons. Like they're not maintenance hogs. You can continue to run them and get awesome quality parts from them from day one until day, 400 and whatever, or 600 or 700. People run them for years. I run mine almost maintenance free all the time, and maybe there's some quality change, minute, that I can't notice. But for me, I'm mostly printing mechanical parts, so I don't really care. They're still to spec and they're still functional, so yay. People get into Voron for the community, and that's also an ever-evolving thing because, how many people we have in Discord at this point?
We recently did a prune, which for those, we prune inactive members every couple months, years, whatever, and we're back over 10,000. And we did a prune a month ago. We did a prune a month ago. So anyone who hasn't been active in the past, I think it's 3 months or 30 days gets pruned, and we're already back over 10,000. So,
yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. A lot of people. Remember Slack?
It's a lot of people.
I remember Slack.
I remember Slack. There's also over 400 people watching this right now.
Oh, geez.
I know.
It's funny. I don't even watch the chat or because I have 15-inch monitors here, so I can't actually display my whole YouTube window. So I can just see chat, and it's I got to scroll over to see the numbers. It's oh, dang.
I saw that number approach 500. I don't know if it ever went over it, but it was
meh.
It's mind-boggling. I think it's better not to know.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to that. I
That's
move
good.
it out of the way. So
it's good.
The only thing I look at is the clock occasionally. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Thank you for having me on the stream. It's been a pleasure talking Voron with you and all of your stream members.
Yep. Thank you for coming. I should be good on content for a bit, but if I run out again, I'll make sure I give you a call. Otherwise, I'll drag somebody else in here.
Drag Doc in here. He loves to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have a drink and that'll be
like a 7-hour stream. It'd be amazing.
Okay, I'll keep it up. I got 45 minutes left, so you take care.
Do it.
I'll probably chat with you
later.
Thank you. But thank you for coming out, and
of course.
Peace. Have a good one.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye. And now it's just me. Let me zoom the camera in and get the music going, because we got 45 minutes left, so I guess I'll just carry it on as is. Let's see here. Get some music. Go with the lo-fi. There we go. So yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed that. We had been kind of planning that for a little bit. Stuff kind of worked out finally with dates and free time and whatnot, that we could get Maks on stream there, because it was good to get some of that information out there. There's a lot of stuff people don't know, so it's kind of good to just kind of talk about the history of Voron and just get some of that community feedback, community interaction, answer a bunch of questions people had. So yeah. So anything you guys want me to go over or talk? I know people were asking about deltas. There really is no Voron delta in development. I think somebody was kind of playing with an idea they had before they even joined the team. But deltas aren't that common right now. Nobody really makes a big delta anymore. It's like deltas have kind of died off in 3D printing, I think, a little bit. So it's kind of hard to... Nobody really wants to design one, so there is no Voron delta. Put it that way. Print a ding ding. Why do you want me to print ding dings? It's always print ding dings. Any tips for removing roll-in T-nuts? My camera. Zoom. Okay. Roll-in T-nuts. Does this have them? Yes, this has some. So what you do is you get something like a screwdriver, and you just kind of put in the flat side and just kind of push it down and kind of flick it out. That's how you get rid of a roll-in T-nut. Or you just slide them out the end. Doom Cube. Doom Cube is Doom Cube. It's a Doom Cube. Scara. No Scara. Oh god, or a puller. If you want a puller, go buy a Sculpto at that craft store in the States. But yeah, the problem with deltas is the closer, so it's a circular bed, which can be an issue, but also the closer you are to the towers, you actually, it's not, the bed isn't like a Cartesian where each step, the step distance isn't the same and consistent throughout the bed. So near the towers and between the towers, one step is actually a different amount of movement. You can kind of compensate for it in software, but it's still not 100% perfect. It's kind of like a polar printer, where it's like a, a figure skater, when they're spinning and their arms are in close, they spin faster than they're out. So same thing with a polar printer. When you spin the bed, one step is a different amount of distance when you're on the inside versus the outside. Stuck yourself with a screwdriver trying to remove roll-ins. Ooh, that sucks. Delta is a cool to watch and really fast. Honestly, I would love a mini Delta, just to kind of put clipper on it and just use it for little models and whatnot. But I would never actually use it as like a workhorse printer. Any word on Toasty Boy part? They should be here hopefully in soon. I'm waiting on 2 shipments, basically. There's a few odds and end part from Ali I'm waiting to come in, but they're not, I don't need them to start the build. It's like stuff for like near the end. But I do need the frame and like the bed stuff. And the bed stuff and whatnot should have shipped either Friday or Monday. And then the LDO stuff is, I think, on a sea can somewhere. So hopefully not in the Suez Canal. Klipper everything. Yes, Klipper all the things. Oh, what is the change to Klipper to have it not your lights flicker? Let me pull it up here. Bed. Extruder, heater, bed. Yep, there you go. So, in Klipper, this is what you're going to have. You're going to add to your heater bed section, you're going to add PWM underscore cycle time underscore, or PWM underscore cycle time. And then if you're in North America or anywhere where it's 60 Hertz, it's 0.0166. If you're in Europe or the part of Japan that's 50 Hertz, it's 0.02. It's 60 divided by whatever your frequency is, or 1 divided by your frequency, or whatever it is. Stuff like that. What is my favorite main board? I don't have more than every printer I have has a different main board. This is an SKR Mini E3V2 that has a mellow MRRF board that's running RepRap firmware. The Bonsai has a Mini E3 1.2. Switchwire has an SKR 1.3. Tallboy has a Taco Raven. And then V226 has a Duet. Hopefully, either Toasty Boy or V226 is getting swapped out to a Spider. Hopefully, when it shows up. We'll see. I might be getting one. David, have a bunch of LDO stuff arriving Monday. Awesome. Yeah, they're sending it to me directly, so... Apparently some goodies in the bag too. We'll see. Hopefully all the stickers. I need more stickers. How do you use Voron test prints properly? How hard to have to push? So for like the screw together parts, you should be able to screw them in by hand without destroying the parts. And if you really have to reef on it, it's too tight. There are a few parts too I would recommend just to make sure. Print like the AB mounts. Any parts that click together or have like tabs that fit into another part, that's also a good test print. Where is the ABS Voron parts? Oh yeah, I gotta do that. The problem is my Ender isn't stock anymore. So I was hoping to do videos on it stock, but it's not stock anymore. So I got an upgraded controller board. I have a direct feed extruder. Honestly, printing it on a stock Ender 3, just look at my guide. I did it on using the Bonsai. If I had the Ender at the time, I would have used the Ender. But pretty much everything that applies to the Bonsai applies to the Ender. Enclose it and just follow the guides for printing on the Ender. Actually, for the Ender, this guy just came in. So I got a flex plate for it now. So that guy should be getting a flex plate soon. And then hopefully a bed probe. Do bed adhesion solutions such as Magic Goo, Hairspray, Glue Stick are really necessary for PEI sheet? PEI, run it clean. Nothing on the PEI. So with some PEI sheets, let's see here. Now, I run energetic because I can't get the other stuff because I'm in Canada, or at least wasn't able to. I think I can get some of it now, like the Alta Stick. But these are energetic plates. So on one side, you have just the sticker, and on one side, it's textured. Some of them you can get textured both sides. Personally, I like having the texture and the sticker because you can replace the sticker. You can't replace the texture. So PI, it should stick to it just fine. Now, some plates, like the Triangle Labs plate on my Switchwire, this is a PI plate. I don't like it. This one does not work, so I glue stick it. But good PEI, you should just have to have heat and a clean bed. So, cross gantry. Nobody on the team's really looked into it. it has advantages. It's like when people ask what the team think of other DIY printers. Yeah, like, you know, the Rail Core is a good printer. coreXY is a good printer. Like, it's just different design team goals. Like, not everyone drives a Toyota Corolla. Some people like a Honda Civic. Some people like a Ford Focus. Like, in the personal preference, the Voron team designs things the way the Voron team likes designing things. Can you just buy the plate from Energetic? Yeah, you can just buy the plate. You can buy the plate, you can buy the plate with the magnet, or you can buy just the magnet, or you can even, their PI is actually pretty decent PI for globally sourced AliExpress PI. If you're in the US though, for PI, just like the actual PI itself, CS Hide. Have you ever thought of doing Voron user mod reviews? I've featured the belted Z. Like my V0 has a belted Z. So see, it's belted. Can't do that with a lead screw. So that is a Voron mod that I featured. Problem is, like, I usually run my printers stock because I kind of am on the dev team. So it's kind of, I run them stock because that's, you know, testing and whatnot. So I don't really run a lot of the mods. I think on Toasty Boy, I might do some of them. We'll see. So how many SKR boards have I had fail? None. I haven't gotten, like, I'm not talking like reviewer bias where I get like pre-production super awesome inspector ones. Every controller board I have in my printers I bought with my own money from just, you know, whatever. And I haven't had any of them fail. But yeah, the Fysetc Spider board seems to be a good option. The thing is, nobody has had the production ones on hand. A few of the guys on the team got their hands on pre-production samples for testing and evaluation and to like make, you know, comments and suggestions on what should be fixed and upgraded and whatnot. But nobody has actually got their hands on a production sample. So in terms of quality of production samples, we don't know yet. But on paper, it's a good board. How long should a PA sheet last? The one on V226 is coming on, actually it's over a year old now. It's an energetic one too. And it's starting to bubble up, but it's still working just fine. Before that, I had a PI sheet just glued right to the bed before flex plates. And that sheet was 2 years. I got 2 years out of it and it was still actually working just fine. It's just, I wanted to go to a flex plate. So I still have the sheet somewhere because it's like a 1 millimeter thick slab of PI. What is the best material for bottom and side panels? Depends on how much you want to spend. I have, like, Tallboy here is all coroplast because it's cheap. But on V226, I have ABS. Is Masumi still sold out of extrusions? I don't know. I haven't looked. Yeah, I haven't looked. What's wrong with SKR boards? Apparently some people are running into QC issues, and honestly, they have a habit of putting out a good board and then replacing it with a not so good board. Like the SKR 1.3 was fine, and then they came out with the SKR 1.4, which had some gremlins in it. So yeah, I think they've pulled a lot of their boards off the market. So I'd be kind of hesitant to buy one from them directly because who knows what they got left. So yeah. Yeah, I would print something, but probably going to be ending the stream in like 25 minutes. So we're just going to do some chit chat. Let me pull up Fusion. We'll look at some CAD. I did upgrade Avro. I did go through the design and swapped it. Actually, a lot has changed on Avro. Yeah, an MCU shortage. So yeah, that's another thing too. Global semiconductor shortage. So what do I think about printing Voron parts in PETG to get it up and running? So I did that on my V1 originally. I printed my parts in PETG, printed for a little bit, and then printed ABS parts. The downside to that is you pretty much have to build the whole printer twice, which kind of sucks. It will be able to do it, but I got locked back into. But honestly, I would either find somebody or go to the PIF queue and just go right from ABS. It's honestly a pain to rip apart the whole printer after you've built it and then rebuild it. So there you go. Yeah, no problem, Max. Anytime you want to come in, just ring the bell. I'll throw you up on the screen. That was fun. That was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm glad we didn't have any technical issues. I was really worried about technical issues. So, will I ever enclose the V0? Probably not. In terms of, I have 2 enclosed printers. I got V226, which is fully enclosed acrylic or plexiglass, and then I got Tallboy, which is coroplast. It's not as enclosed as well. I don't get the same chamber temps, but it's good enough if I need to print ABS. So I got 2 V2s that are enclosed for anything I need to be enclosed. I'm going to be building Toasty Boy, which is going to be for dedicated exotic plastics at higher temperatures. So I don't want to enclose this too, because I use this for demonstration sometimes. So have it open is better. Same with Switchwire. So. Do you need an all metal hot end? All metal is recommended because of the PTFE liner in a PTFE hot end. It can break down once you start getting to ABS temperatures. It's just a safety issue. Can you print ABS on a PTFE lined hot end? Yeah, but we don't recommend it. Will the Dragonfly BMO fit in the V0 tool head? I believe it does, because it uses the same hole pattern. It's just rotated 45 degrees. Ooh, probably want to let everyone know Ali Triangle Lab has Dragon Hot End on sale, $5 off. Okay, there you guys go. If you want to buy a Dragon Hot End off Aliexpress, it's on sale for $5 off. Honestly, I like the Dragon Hot End. The Dragon Hot End, honestly, should have came out 3 years ago and been called the E3D V7. They missed the boat. They missed the boat on that. That's my opinion on the Dragon. It should have come out 3 years ago and been called an E3D V7. They sat on the V6 for too long. So, Avro, the little CNC I'm designing, is now... Oh, this isn't the right model. Oh, it didn't connect. It's not on the internet. Dang it. Yay, cloud. Oh, because I had my computer on upstairs and it didn't save. Yeah. Dang it, Fusion. Why you gotta be like that? Anyways, Avro is all HGR 15 now. I've dropped the MGN rails. ACM. ACM is nice. I'm gonna be doing Toasty Boy in ACM. So this is the last thing keeping you from writing your paper. Come on, go school. Important. You gotta go get yourself an education. What sourcing or controller board would you recommend for 2.4? Sourcing guide calls for... Yeah, because the sourcing guide only gets updated when there's major updates. We're not going to recommend like the Spider. Honestly, right now, if the Spider works out as it does on paper, go with the Spider. But I won't say get a Spider because nobody has a production sample on hand right now. So we don't know for sure. But on paper, go with the Spider. But the sourcing guide only gets updated once we have stuff tested and approved. Like, we don't just go, hey, go get this because we think it'll be great. We go get this because we've used it. We know it works. So. Alberto, try the Triangle Lab V6s. The Triangle Lab V6s are honestly indistinguishable from a stock V6. And I've had them both. Like, I have a legit V6 and a Triangle Labs V6. I can't tell them apart. There we go. Hey, it's working. So this is current status of Avro. So I've done some changes to it. We actually have more Z. So now I have, I think, 100 millimeters of Z travel. Let me see here. So it's all HGR 15. Yeah, so it's like 104 millimeters of Z. And the spindle actually goes up higher now. So that even with a tool in it, I actually get the full 100 millimeters of Z. And it's all HGR 15. Stuff still is going to shift around, but this is how it is currently. And I've actually got the Y assembly actually sitting on something instead of just floating in the air. So yeah, more aluminum extrusions. And if it's not rigid enough, I'm just going to bolt the whole thing to a plate. But yeah, it's all HDR 15 now. Yep. Do you want ABM? David, I already have some on the way. So I would, but I already have somebody sending me some already. If you want to send me some stickers, I'll put some stickers up. I got the Sparta 3D one, but he sent me the SKR Pro, I think. Yeah, the SKR Pro that I'm going to use in Toasty Boy. I didn't learn fusion joints. I just have whole assemblies saved to folders. So it's not a joint. It is just I am moving. I have like the ZX assembly, and I just select them and then I just move them. So it's not, you know, they're not joints. I can move them right, you know, not proper. I don't know joints yet. So the problem with the turbos, there's no point in getting the turbo, because with Klipper, having a little bit extra speed means nothing really. So. I will say this is good whiskey. But yeah, some people are starting to have issues with SKR. I don't know what's going on with them. I liked Big Tree Tech, but there seems to be some issues lately. I don't know. I personally haven't had any issues though. What do you think about using anti-seize thread compound on the steel nozzles? It depends on the anti-seize. I haven't printed with a steel nozzle yet. I have some here. I have some hardened nozzle that I'm going to have to use to print the parts for Toasty Boy. But I do have some anti-seize somewhere. And I believe it is good to like 800 degrees, I believe. I think it's in the other room. Hey, look, I have a wireless lav mic. I can now walk and talk. Let me go check the other room here. Where is it at? Where did I put it? Did I lose it? Did I pack it up? Shoot, I don't have it. Where did I put it? On my shelf? Nope, not on the shelf. Oh, there it is. Yeah, when it comes to anti-seize, yeah, like, it might contaminate the filament, but like this stuff right here is good to 982 Celsius. So this would have no problem, but I've used this on the screws in a heater block without issue. So like on my mosquitoes, which I don't even know where that went, on the mosquitoes, the screws that hold it in, I put anti-seize on them so they don't get seized in there. So where in South Detroit is a good source for that? So if you mean the Canada side, Essex Metals. I've gone there for stuff in the past. Okay, so if you're buying it off Aliexpress, it's not real Highwind. It might be good clone, it might be B stock, but it's not legit Highwind if you're buying it off AliExpress. At least for the price that you think you're getting. And if it is, it's pulled out of something. So. Yeah, the silver. So the silver compound, we actually used to have the silver compound, but apparently like HR and found some random health issue with it because apparently it gives you cancer in California or whatever, and they got rid of it. So now we have the copper stuff. boron for your Voron. Chaiwin. Honestly, I use CNA rails. Like, I have some rails here for Avro that I'm not going to use because I redesigned it away from MGN. But these are CNA rails, and they're fine. Like, I got medium preload, so they stick, but they, you know, there's zero plane in here. They move fine. They're not greased up, but also, ultrasonic cleaners are awesome. Does the Voron dev group have a list of approved sellers website? So in terms of parts, go to the sourcing guide on the website. So, Voron Design, and then help, sourcing guide. You got all your printers on the bottom, so V0, 1.8, 2.4, Switchwire, etc. So all these parts here, these are parts that the dev team have personally verified work just fine, and we're using them in our printers, right? So, you know, Misumi Extrusion, Ascara Mini E3, and then there's links to all of them, okay? Obviously, if you're in, like, you know, Europe, you're not going to be buying stuff from Bolt Depot, but we try to have most of these have a global source link for the most part. Most of the time it's like Aliexpress. But outside of that, if you go on the Voron Discord, there is vendor channels. And if the vendor has a vendor channel, it doesn't mean that we endorse them, but it means they've come to us and asked for a channel on the Discord, and we kind of hold them accountable. So if any of those vendors have issues, we look into it, and if there's funny business, we'll kick them out, basically. So if they have a channel on the Voron Discord, odds are they're a good vendor. Or if they hang out in the chat like David does from Printed Solid, odds are he's a good vendor, so go buy stuff from him. And if you're in Canada, Sparta 3D. Super Lube. So I think it's Moblex. There's a grease in the sourcing guide that they recommend. I sometimes use PTFE Super Grease. And then most of the time though, I end up just using white lithium. I have a tube of bulk white lithium grease here. Great, I'm covered in grease. I don't know, it's cream colored. I got it from work years ago, but it's just white lithium grease. I'm honestly, it's a 3D printer, not a high performance engine. Pretty much any grease will work. Just don't use anything with stuff in it, like, anything that'll wear down the metal, like graphite, or not graphite. I don't know. There's some greases that have additives that can wear the metal. 3 a session, $5. Thank you. Appreciate it. Start watching your videos for the Switchwire build. Excellent videos. Thank you. Thank you for watching and enjoying the videos. Is there another source from DigiKey? Mauser and Arrow. I know in Canada here, I get most of my stuff like that from Mauser. They have a little bit cheaper prices and a little bit better shipping. So, yeah, molybdenum. If I'm starting a summer camp, which Voron printer should I use to build with the kids, or rather that the kids can build? Okay, in that case, Switchwire, because there is no mains voltage other than what's going to the power supply. After that, it's all 24 volts. So all the exposed wiring is 24 volt. Although be careful with the bed wiring, because now it's 24 volt, it's high amps at that point. And it is the simplest build. In terms of if you wanted to pre-build a printer to show off to them, a V0 that's DC powered by a power brick with a 24 volt bed was what would be what I would do if I had like to make a classroom printer. Yeah. To the documentation, it's on the Klipper GitHub somewhere. I don't remember where the exact documentation. Somebody just linked me that PWM cycle in Discord a while back. Tim, thank you for becoming a member. Yeah, it's not that we recommend the cheapest, we just recommend not the cheapest. We recommend what we know works, and if somebody bought a cheap item and it works, then we're gonna recommend it. Rails CNA or C and A, are they on? I use CNA rails. Also, if you want a step up from that, something like LDO rails. Those are the only two rails, or no, I haven't used LDO rails. I'm going to have LDO rails coming for V1.8. Switchwire is still using CNA rails. But all my printers run CNA rails, they're fine. I've had one bad rail in like 30 rails I've ordered from them. Did I use the BTT board? No, I have not. I haven't had to use a BTT expansion board on any of them. Any of my printers. The two Vorons, the V2s, that one has a Taco Raven, which was a board we developed in-house like 2 years ago, and it's not on the market for a reason. And then V226 is used in a duet with a custom expander from like 3 years ago. One of those is going to get upgraded to a Spider at some point. Yeah, luckily I'm in North America, so the Suez Canal blockage shouldn't affect me because everything comes across the Pacific. So Dustin, if you have to do a talk with kids, what I would recommend is print a bunch of print-in-place objects. Stuff that you can't injection mold, like the fidget cube stuff, where you can like fiddle with it and it's all like printed place single object. Stuff like that is kind of cool to show off because it could show you what you can do with a 3D printer versus injection molding and other traditional manufacturing methods. So something like that. And then also having a printer to show off how it works would be kind of cool too. That's what I would do personally. So, and yes, don't touch bare wires. A V0 luckily has all the sparky bits on the back and the bottom, and you can put panels over them. And then what you can also do is power the whole thing from a separate 24 volt brick. You can get a Meanwell 160 watt 24 volt power brick, and you would just have to get and they make them, Kinovo makes a 24 volt bed. So you would get a 24 volt bed, and then the power supply, you don't have a power supply underneath. So then it's a simple plug into the back. It's all paneled up, nothing's exposed. You couldn't do the same thing with a Switchwire too and panel it all up too. What are my thoughts on Duet Maestro? Not really needed. Most of us run Klipper on our printers, so it pretty much comes down to buying a controller board that has the drivers you want with the right connections you want. That's a quality board, or not a quality board. I mean like a board that isn't going to break right away. So most of us run like an SKR of some sort, but the Maestro I think runs Klipper. So if you want to run Klipper on it, that'd be okay. If you really want to run RepRap firmware though, there are other boards that can run RepRap firmware. Mellow makes a bunch of boards. I have one of them in my Ender 3, but it's only a 4 driver board, but it can run Klipper too. Just don't stick pennies in the outlets. Well, if they're in school, I'm hope they're past their sticking the pennies in the outlets part. What is a Spider? It's a new board that Fysetc is coming out with. Here. This is it right here. So this is the Fysetc Spider. This is a, it's pre-sale right now. So it's a 8-stepper controller board that you can run Klipper on and whatnot. It's got a, I don't know what processor it has. STF, it's got an STM32F in it. So this is an all-in-one board. This is great for like a V2. For something like a V1 even, this is a good option. Because, how do I put this? So right now a stock V1 uses 5-stepper motors, okay? So pretty much most main controller boards in SKR 1.4, for example, can run it. But say you want to do what I'm doing and install a separate PT100 step stick, because you can get a PT100 board that's in step stick format that plugs into the board, and then you plug your PT100 or PT1000, or I think it only works with PT100, your PT100 temperature probe into the stepper motor, and it can read the temperatures that way, because PT100s are more accurate than a thermistor. So I'm going to be doing that on Toasty Boy. So now I need a 6-stepper driver board. Okay, well, there's a few 6-stepper driver boards out there. I have an SKR Pro, for example. But if, for example, there was a future revision and now you need 3 Z motors instead of 2, the Spider has 8. So you would be able to run 6 motors plus your expansion for your PT100, and you still have a free stepper for, hey, whatever, dual extruders. There you go. So now you can run dual extruders, 3 Z motors, a PT100, on a single board. So yes, so the Fysetc Spider would be a great board for V1 or V2. A V0, don't put it in a V0. It may be justified in a Switchwire. So yeah. NearQ, can you shill the V0 giveaway? Sure, go ahead. YOLO. I'm going to be giving away some V0 stuff next month. Stay tuned. Yes, I'm not going to endorse any Voron kits. The closest I'll endorse to a Voron kit is buying like components from like LDO. They make some packages. That's about it. But I won't endorse actually buying any kits, because none of us have actually reviewed any of the kits and like can endorse them. So the forum bots are common. A lot of people get the forum bots, but you can't guarantee quality with the component sourcing. Yeah. For your first coreXY, I would recommend the V1. The Legacy is more of a kind of a niche build. It's a resto mod. The V1 is a the V1 is the Legacy is like a resto mod basically. It's more niche. Yeah, Hemi. If like LDO starts making full kits, even then I won't endorse them unless I try one. Because I can't make a decision on it. Plus, we as a whole, the Voron dev team don't endorse kits. We don't actually endorse really any products. We recommend stuff, but we won't go, you should buy this. We can go, you may want to buy this, but we don't go, like, if you get what I'm saying. Like we're not a company, so we can't really, I don't know, try to keep it open. All the notifications that I missed. Yes, LDO makes good stuff. Nobody's perfect, but LDO makes good stuff. Try and find a calibrated thermistor. Eddie the engineer just did a video on it. Well, not just, he did a couple weeks ago. He did a video on his channel going over thermistors, and he found all kinds of funky stuff. Like even the slice thermistor, like their high quality thermistor, can be out to like 20 to 30 degrees off at 400 or 450 degrees Celsius. Like thermistor accuracy is not something that's great. Like a PT1000 is the most accurate, but that's a little bit more unique. Should it, or is it possible for Voron 2.4 convert it into coreXYZ? Printing or even moving in non-linear printing. A current 2.4 with the belted Z would do linear just fine. I don't think I've ever seen an actual practical coreXYZ printer. Like the V2.4 is coreXY with a moving Z, with the gantry moving in the Z. Get the none of your business. Don't get steel belts, and don't get rubber belts. Get the fiberglass Gates belts that are in the sourcing guide. Steel in the tight bend radiuses of a 3D printer over like 22 idlers will fray and break, and rubber is too stretchy. So yes, so NeroQ posted it in chat. It's up there, but I'm going to say it again because it already scrolled through. April 17th on the stream, I got a full LDO kit to give away for V0. I don't know if it's a full kit, like everything, or just like the LDO components for V0, but we will be giving away stuff on April 17th related to LDO and V0s, and then a few partial kits. So yeah, stay tuned. There will be stuff to give away. That'll be a fun one. Hopefully I'm building Toasty Boy by then. So yeah, Eddie the engineer, if you have questions about temperature stuff, he knows. He does the YouTube stuff, but he goes really in depth on the technical stuff. So Does HBot require less torque than coreXY? Okay, so the problem with HBot has issues really when it comes to if the belts are not improperly not properly tensioned, you make ovals instead of circles. You don't really see a lot of HBots nowadays because the actual motion system is much more susceptible to flaws. coreXY is a much more balanced motion system and has less issues. So, what do you think about the 2 amp stepper motors? I use 84 ounce 2 amp stepper motors in most of my printers, except for Switchwire and obviously the V0. So my V2s have the 84 ounce big boys. But the recommended motors are just fine. And the LDO, like specific Voron motors, are just fine too. The 2 amp motors were recommended back in the day because torque and strong, but you kind of don't need that much beef. So. Is the V0 belted Z worth doing in the initial build rather than tearing down to mod it later? I've heard the stock Z setup can be a pain to build. With 0.1, it will be changing, and 0.1 is soon. But I have no problems with the belted Z, but it's still a mod. And last I checked, there's still some tweaks to be had. I can't remember. I haven't used it as much, but I don't use my V0 as much. So it's hard to say long term. Buy an LDO integrated lead screw. Put it that way. LDO makes a pancake stepper with a lead screw in it for the V0. Buy it and just buy everything else and just wait before you do your V0 build. Any thoughts on bang bang control over PID? Watch CNC Kitchen's video on bang bang versus PID. He goes over that exactly. It came out today. Crips notes. Bang Bang makes stuff look like it has Z wobble. Go with PID if you can. One Fysetc Spider board would power V2. And also, let me find it here on the thing. See this right here? See that right there? You can power a Raspberry Pi off of the Fysetc Spider. Not like a Pi Zero, not like how we do the Pi Zeros. A Raspberry Pi full size, like a Pi 4 or Pi 3. You can power it off the Fysetc. So you do not need a separate buck converter or separate power supply for your Raspberry Pi with the Fysetc Spider. You can power the Raspberry Pi off the Fysetc Spider. So. Also, it's got a really cool logo. So. You have a client that wants to build 5 or 6 Vorons. Ooh. So because people have asked me to build Vorons for them. I won't. I like building printers. I honestly like building printers more than I print with them. But I won't build printers for people because I don't want to be, how do I put this? I don't want to be liable or responsible for them after they leave my hands. So I know a few people have DM'd me saying they'll pay for me to build a whole V2 for them and I can do it on stream and use it for content. One, I'm going to be, once stuff rolls in for Toasty Boy and the CNC stuff, I'm going to be busy for a while. But I don't have the free time to build a full printer on the side and test it all and ship it out and all that. So yeah, building 5 Vorons for somebody, I hope you're getting paid well. So. Okay, so I think I'm going to call the stream there. We're at 11:05 there. Thangs is heading out too. Good night, Thangs. Thank you for sponsoring the stream again. So I will say that. I want to give a shout out to Thangs for sponsoring tonight's stream. It was a little bit different than we normally do because we did an interview. So I hope you all found that interesting. If you missed the beginning of the stream, for the first 2 hours, we had Mr. Russiancatfood himself, Maks Zolin, the founder of Voron Design, on the stream. We did some Q&As talking about the history and whatnot. So I hope you all were entertained about that. I hope you learned some stuff. And I hope you all had a great night. Make sure you visit thangs.com. I have links in the description below. Create an account, share some things, download some things, create some things. It's a great website. It's a growing community for 3D models, not just 3D printing. You can upload other CAD models as well. They support assembly and whatnot, other formats of 3D modeling. So if you want to share, you know, something you're working on, like a CNC machine you're designing, you can upload that to Thangs and share the full assembly of that as well. For everyone who watched the stream tonight, anyone who donated to the stream tonight, you guys are all awesome. As always, anyone who donates to the stream, that goes right into helping create the content I do and the things I do. Helping the content I create and the things I do. Wow, I keep screwing up my own lines. But you guys are all awesome. Helps me make the things that I do possible. And without you guys, none of this would be possible. So anyone who just even hung out in the stream tonight, commented, chatted, smash that like button, like that smash button. You know how it is. You guys are all awesome. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe out there. Wash your hands. Have a nice day. Peace.